President, CEO of Nations.
Seam heads. Our Giants game day coverage begins now.
It's the mosaic.
So before gloves start popping,
diving, he makes the catch,
and bats start cracking,
it is gone.
We bring you the voice of Bay Area baseball for the past 29 years.
As I always say, baseball reflects what life is all about.
This is Talkin' Baseball with Marty Laurie.
That's what we do. We talk ball.
On KNBR, the sports leader.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Talkin' Baseball on this Sunday morning as we get ready for Game 3 between the Giants and the Detroit Tigers. The toothless Detroit Tigers, as I said yesterday. Boy, they play tough. They do. They've got some pitching, and they've got some good young talent. It's just that they don't have much hitting right now, and the Giants took advantage of that yesterday. Look, the Giants are not hitting the cover off the ball either, and I said that they've got to start, hitting the ball a little bit better early in the game, as yesterday 4 no-hit innings from the Tigers from an opener where the Giants had the bases loaded in the first inning and couldn't score. Till Yastrzemski got it going in the 5th inning with the Giants' first hit. But all was well and good yesterday. It was a beautiful day at the ballpark, very exciting. The celebration, it was great, of the 2014 team. It was just wonderful to relive those memories and to think back to the shows that I did. And Raph, our post games in those days would go to midnight, and the parade and everything else. 2014 really was a fight. That World Series was a fight. Just to digress a little bit, but, the Texas World Series, the Giants handled well. They swept the Tigers, and Pablo had the 3 homers. But this Kansas City World Series, that was a tough one. That was a World Series that was for the ages, really. And the Giants ended up winning it behind the great Madison Bumgarner, and really 25 stories in that one. So it was fun yesterday to see the guys out at the ballpark, and Bruce Bochy made a beautiful speech. And Woe and I will talk about 2014 here in a little while today. But yesterday the Giants did win a 3-1 over the Tigers, and Logan Webb, he is the guy. And as the Giants go down the stretch here, there's 43 to go. They're 61-58. They've won 14 straight, 13 out of 17. 12 out of 15, and since the break now, they're 14-8 in August, 7-2, and it's all good. And you've got to win these games. These are teams that you should beat, and the Giants are taking care of business here in getting it done. And more is coming, and we're going to talk about Atlanta in a little while. They had a big game last night in Colorado. They usually just wallop Colorado, and the bats got loose for Atlanta last night. But for Logan Webb, he's 10-8. He is the guy. It was great to see him pitch yesterday. He was very strong against a Tiger team that I said is overmatched offensively. Let's face it. We know that the Giants should win these games. They should win again today, and they should sweep the series. But it is baseball, and you never know what's going to happen, because the Giants guy today, Hayden Birdsong, got lit up pretty good by the Nationals earlier in the week, and he's going to be a very important part of the team going down the stretch with Kyle Harrison, and Hayden Birdsong. They are being challenged here. They've never thrown this many innings and this many pressure-type games. And even though you're playing the Tigers, they're a major league team, and they can do some damage, and you've got to hit, and you've got to have good pitching behind it. Ryan Walker got the close yesterday, and he got the save, his first of the year. This is going to be a project. Believe me, it's not simple. What anyone says, those last 3 outs are different. It is a different part of the game. Bob Melvin talked about it yesterday. I'm glad he did after the game. Those last 3 outs, there's something different about them. Walker's got a great arm. Lefties give him a little more trouble, and he is the guy right now. But this is going to be a work in progress with Camilo Doval down in Sacramento. But he came in yesterday, got in a little trouble, and then got out of it, and he got his first save. 40,000 Russ Stanley, our vice president in charge of ticketing. I'm sure Russ is thrilled today. 40,000 yesterday at the ballpark. The Junior Giants stretch drive is going on. As I said, this is one of the best things that happens in Giants baseball in the world of the Giants every year. The Community Fund does a great job. You can donate at Oracle Park at the Community Fund Center. You can look up online at the Giants Community Fund and donate there. But you can get a bobblehead of Tyro Estrada. But basically, the Community Fund does a great job in this area because it outfits a kid with a glove, with uniforms. But as I said yesterday, there's more to it that happens with this Junior Giant program. And in the world we live in today, you want to develop people who have respect for each other, have respect for the world, for someone who may be different than you. And that's part of what the Junior Giants do. It's almost like the old American Legion back in the 1920s when that started, American Legion Baseball, which we still even have today. But it was the premise behind it was to get kids involved with the good parts of life. And that's what Junior Giants do, and it's definitely worth getting involved with. So I'm very happy to mention that today. Well, the Giants do go for the sweep today. They're playing well at home. They're 35-23 now at home. Against the American League Central, they're 5-3. Now, you play 3 games against each team in the Central, and they've got 3 with the White Sox coming up next. And the White Sox are, 21? I wrote it down here somewhere. They were 28-91. The Chicago White Sox. They're coming in next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. They're 1-24 in the last 25 games. So Giants have 1 more with Detroit, 3 with the White Sox, and 3 with a very tough Kansas City team in September. And as I like to do yesterday, I always like to look at the schedule. Those games with Kansas City, if I'll hold it up on our stream here, you can see those games are on the road in September. So the American League Central, the Giants are 5-3 against them now, and they've got the Tigers today and then 3 with the White Sox. And the Giants are going to have to take care of business here with these teams. Detroit on the road, 29-32. Yesterday, runners in scoring position for the Giants, 2 for 12. That's been a problem all month long. It's got to get better because these teams in September are going to be much more offensively oriented. They're going to have to score runs and do it early and get those big hits. Detroit yesterday was 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position. Logan Webb, as I said, 7 innings, 4 hits, a run, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts, 110 pitches for him, 157 innings on the year. He's going to go over 200, and he really, really, really pitched well yesterday. And I assume probably see him against probably the A's maybe next weekend. We'll see how that works out. The Giants have Friday off and then Saturday and Sunday over in Oakland. Yaz got the first hit yesterday. And Encarnacion, now look, they use him against left-handed pitching, and the kid Herder pitched pretty well for the Tigers, but Encarnacion got on and got a base hit, went to second on a throw. Yaz went to third after he got his hit. And then I said it yesterday, this kid Wisely, you say what you want about him and, what he's doing in the field, everything else, but he's a grinder, and I like it. I like that Mark Canna. I like Wisely. I like Fitzgerald. I like the way they play. Bailey as well. Wisely comes up, and Detroit had to play the infield in because they don't score at all. And Wisely slapped one down the right field line, and 2 runs came in. And then Elliot Ramos does what he does really well, and he's doing well in that number 3 spot. You'd like to see a little more power out of him now because he's got that bad thumb. But he does control the strike zone, and you pitch him away, and he's going to take it to right field. And he did it, and he knocked Wisely in, and that was the 3rd run, and the Giants end up winning the game 3-1 yesterday. So with all that going on, there was great defense yesterday, and I think it's worthy of pointing that out this morning. This Matt Chapman, and I said this to Farhan, remember when I had him on before the trade deadline, and I said, look, you should think about signing this guy. Matt Chapman is a tough player. He goes in that list of people that I was talking about. He's been in the playoffs before. He comes to play every day. Guy never takes a day off. He plays third every day. And he made a heck of a defensive play yesterday that really saved the game on a bloop over his head and went back and caught it with a couple of runners on base that really, I thought, kept the game where it should have been. And Bob Melvin commented on that yesterday. Great play by him, really. Anything hit the third, the guy just catches it, throws it to first, that's it. He runs into enough as a hitter, and his WAR, for people that get involved with that, is significant. It's about 8th in Major League Baseball. Of all the big stars, Matt Chapman, I think, is in the top 10 or so in WAR, and that tells you how valuable he's been. Very good. Big game for him yesterday. Canna had the other one. Made a nice play at first base. 0 for 4 for him. I don't think he had a hit yesterday. And then Conforto, I was talking about how great he was, that he puts the bat on the ball. He struck out 4 times yesterday. So, Michael, welcome home. Nice to have you back at the ballpark. He was 0 for 4 yesterday. But the Giants do win it 3-1 and have a shot today to beat the Tigers. So what does it do? The Dodgers last night, first of all, the Giants are still in 4th place in the division, and they're looking up at 2 teams that are very hot ahead of them. But the Dodgers win last night over Pittsburgh. They beat Paul Skeens. But River Ryan, the young phenom, left the game after 4 2/3 and tightness in the forearm. Boy, it's amazing, isn't it? All the injuries that happen to these pitchers. You just wonder why. Why does this happen? Do they not get ready? Do they not stretch properly? Is it all the sliders? What is it? But River Ryan, who has pitched great for the Dodgers in his last few games, had to leave after that. But the Dodgers ended up beating Paul Skeens and the Pirates last night. Joey Bart is still the DH for the Pirates, and he had a hit last night. San Diego, boy, they're down 7-3 to the Marlins. And the Marlins, of course, their bullpen is now shot. They've traded just about everybody away. They had a 7-3 lead, and the Padres came back and ended up winning it 9-8 in 10 innings. There's 7 straight for the Padres and 16 out of 18. How about that? Arizona last night played the Phillies. And Arizona today, Merrill Kelly pitches for Arizona today. But Zach Gallen last night had to leave the game in the 5th inning, their right-handed starter, the all-star from last year, because he had body cramps, whatever that means. So he had to leave the game. So they've got 6 starting pitchers now if Merrill Kelly comes back today against the Phillies. But they just blasted the Phillies last night. Aaron Nola just can't win a game in Arizona. And Arizona's got a shot to win 3 or 4 from the Phillies if they win the game today. But McCarthy hit 2 homers for them yesterday. Corbin Carroll homered. Marte hit his 30th. But Marte got banged up at second base. This could be significant. It was a slide into second, and he was taking a throw from left field. His back was to the runner, and the runner slid in and kind of got on the back leg of Marte and sort of bent that knee and ankle down. So he's got an ankle contusion, and he had to leave the game. So we'll see what happens there. But Arizona's won 14 of 17, and the Giants are 13-4, and they actually lost the game to Arizona in the race here in the National League West. So a lot going on. It's good baseball. I want to talk about Atlanta just a little bit. Atlanta's back now in the 3 spot of the wild card. The Giants are a game and a half behind Atlanta, and Atlanta's coming in for 4. Atlanta hits very well in Colorado, and the bats came alive for Atlanta last night. This Atlanta series is not going to be easy. Believe me, it's not going to be easy. I don't care if Atlanta lost 7 straight or whatever, and they broke their losing streak last night. They're still a very good team, and they know how to play baseball, and they've got a good manager and very good staff. And Olsen got loose last night, and as I said, he hit a grand slam. He hit a 2-run shot. Ozuna hit a home run last night. Soler hit a home run last night. Soler had a big hit last night. The bats have come alive for Atlanta in Colorado, and that always helps when you're in Colorado and things happen. And now you're coming into San Francisco for 4. So the Giants are a game and a half behind Atlanta. Atlanta with 55 losses, and the Giants right now with 58 losses. They're tied with 61 wins, so they're a game and a half behind Atlanta. The Mets are shut out again. And I said yesterday, the Mets starting pitching, Manaea, did not have a good game yesterday. Not great, but they've had a rough road trip. You know, the Mets, they have had a trip, and I think I was looking at where they've gone. They've gone to, like, St. Louis, Colorado, Seattle. They've had, like, all over the map on this trip that they've had to make up some rainout games. They get shut out for the second time in a row yesterday. They are now a half a game behind Atlanta with 56 losses. Giants are a game and a half behind Atlanta. St. Louis loses to Kansas City, and they are now 2 back. And the Cubs, believe it or not, got to watch the Cubs. They've won 8 of 10, and they've only got 60 losses. They're 3.5 back of Atlanta. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, I think they're about toast right now. Cincinnati got beat 1-0 by Milwaukee yesterday. So that's a look at what's going on. Giants are right in the middle of it. These are games that they have to take care of business because September is going to be very different, and it's going to be exciting. So Hayden Birdsong today goes against a young pitcher, Keider Montero, Keider Montero. 24, he's from Venezuela. His last 2, 13 innings, 10 hits, 5 runs, only a couple of homers. So his last 2 have been very good. He's a rookie. It's only his 10th Major League game and his 9th start. He's pitched 49 innings and given up 12 homers, 13 walks, 42 strikeouts. You get on base, runners in scoring position, you hit 400 off him, and with 2 out, 4 for 14, that's 286. So he's a kid, and the Giants have to work him and get on base. But the Giants have to hit, and they almost got no hit on Friday night and last night, or yesterday afternoon. They didn't get a hit for the first 4 innings before Yaz got it going, and the Giants end up winning 3-1. So a good time for baseball. Beautiful day as they wrap up this 3-game series with the Tigers. We have our contest going on at Baseball Marty on Twitter. Win dinner for 2 at Original Joe's. Just guess the score of today's game. And Raph also has a special participant that he points out each week for dinner for 2 at Soto Mare and Rich and Laura Arzolino in North Beach. So we have a lot of that stuff going on, too. So enjoy the day today. We've got more coming up. The professor joins us next right here on the Sports Leader.
Talking baseball with Marty Lurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.
Experience the epitome of luxury and craftsmanship with Inicio Windows and Doors, another exciting product line from BMD Manufacturing. Inicio Windows and Doors sets the standard in ultra-premium European design. Wow. For the most demanding American building standards. Available both in steel and aluminum, they are meticulously engineered to elevate your living space to new heights of sophistication. Learn more about Inicio Windows and Doors today. Discover the perfect blend of European beauty and style with unwavering durability and strength. Visit InicioWindows.com. INICIO Windows.com. Inicio Windows and Doors, where European design meets American craftsmanship. Vans Bridge Bank delivers their clients full relationship banking, including treasury management solutions and global market services. Bridge Bank offers financing solutions to businesses for their working capital, equipment, and real estate needs. This is very important in today's world. Fred Voss is the Senior Managing Director of Bridge Bank's commercial lending efforts in Northern California. He has commercial banking teams in San Jose with Jesse Garcia, San Francisco, Oakland, Cheadle, Cordova, and in Pleasanton. Bridge Bank, it's like banking at home. I can't say enough about it.
Time now to go to Sunday school with the professor.
Hey, Professor, take it easy, will you?
Giants coach Ron Wotus with Marty Laurie.
Oh, I didn't know you wanted to get involved with the discussion, Mr. Helper.
On your home of Giants baseball.
Good answer. I like the way you think.
KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Brought to you by River Islands, one of the country's top-selling master plan communities just across the Altamont in Lathrop. Where else can you live on a lake next door to a park or walking distance to your kid's new school? With 10 new neighborhoods, River Islands is the one place you can't afford to miss.
All right, we bring in the professor. Whoa, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Marty. Welcome back. I had a nice time last week with Glenn Kuiper filling in for you. We had a good conversation, and it's nice to have you back in the mix.
Yeah, look, I'm glad to be back. And, we do talk about River Islands. I want to say something. I did the spot for them for this month. There's 15 lakes now and over a dozen parks at River Islands. It made me think of my trip. One of the things I did on the trip was we did paddle boating. And it was, on the inlet there in Alaska. And we got to see some seals and eagles and things like that. But I thought of the kayaking. And I said, something, this is fun. This is good. And there's 15 lakes at River Islands to do it.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see any penguins out there at River Islands. But that's a good thing. But, yeah, eagles. And being on the water is wonderful. I love the kayak. We kayak in Hawaii. We go out on a two-man kayak, Lori and I, and we kayak with the whales. And you get to see them in their environment. It's quiet. And, there's nothing better than having water around, especially with the temperatures we've had in the East Bay this year, this July, 100 degrees. So River Islands has that, no doubt about it. And a lot of them, right? And of course, the river's right there as well. Yeah, it's
15.
Wonderful.
Yeah, 15 lakes. I didn't realize that until Colleen pointed it out to me. So, yeah, that's a good one. I'm glad we could bring that up. All right. You had a good time yesterday, didn't you, with the reunion and Flan playing his music?
Absolutely. Look, anytime you get the fellows back together, it's been 10 years. I've seen, obviously Flan and Rags, Guardy, a lot of them. It hasn't been 10 years, but a lot of them it's been 10 years. And when you win together, it's just a smile to your face. I liken it to when you win the World Series and then you go to spring training the next spring. You had the 4 months off, and you come right back, and you just have that great feeling again because everybody was so successful. And these players, there were so many big moments in the playoff run in 2014, and they really performed. And of course, we had our leader there in Brian Savian, and some of our scouts. So Bobby Evans was there. So it was, a day that you got to get everybody together and reminisce and get to enjoy each other and watch these guys with their families. The kids are a foot taller, and, it's just wonderful to see. You see the wives get to connect again. So the Giants, nobody does it better than the Giants, and it was a wonderful day, as you just said.
Oh, it was great. I was talking to Raph before we came on the air about the World Series that the Giants were in 10, 12, and 14. And, the World Series in 10, was all new and knocked Texas out and got it done, the big home run by Uribe and all that. Then you end up in sweeping the Tigers and Pablo and, in the freezing weather and freezing Cabrera there at the end. But the Kansas City World Series, that was a tough World Series.
It certainly was. It wasn't easy. And the thing that made it easier for us is we've been through it, and a lot of those players have been through it. And they believed in themselves and they had the confidence that they were going to get it done. Now, they weren't cocky, but, there's something about when you're confident and you're driven. We had driven people on these teams. And, it's more obvious to me year after year after year after I'm around other ball clubs, here in San Francisco. You want driven people that put their heart and soul into being the best they can be. And we had a lot of those guys. And I think if you don't have enough of those guys, it's going to be hard to beat other very, very good teams.
Well, the name that always jumps up for me is Michael Morse. And people ask me, what's the, most dramatic home run you've ever seen? And I've seen a few in my life, and I've had a few dramatic moments at a ballpark. But I'm telling you something. Michael Morse's home run off of Neshek was one of against obviously St. Louis in the pennant-clinching game to tie the score in the 8th inning. That's still one of my favorite home runs of all time.
It sure is, and done by just a guy that's always ready for the moment. He's always smiling, right? He's got such an infectious personality and a darn good player. It's hard to believe this guy started out as a shortstop, right? When he first was drafted, he's so big and strong, but I was talking to him yesterday about it, and, he was getting ready for Neshek down in the cage. He had faced him one time before, and he got him out with sliders, and Mo said, I wasn't going to let that happen again. So, these bench players that have been around, they can, they visualize where they're going to be against who and what kind of moment. He wasn't sure he was going to be picked to pinch hit in that spot, but he went down to the cage couple innings before, and he set the machine up on the slider, and he was just working on hitting that slider because he knew he was going to get one from Neshek. And of course, he was sitting on it. He got it, and he got it in a spot where he could hit it out of the ballpark. So, that's the preparation he had behind the scenes, getting ready for that moment, and he executed. And it's just, we had players do that in all kinds of spots throughout the playoff runs.
Oh, and the other one was Joe Panik. And, people forget in the 18-inning game, Giants are losing in the 9th inning with 2 out. And Panik gets the walk, and then things happen after that. How about that part?
Well, you're exactly right. We all know about the double play, the diving play, and he flipped it with a glove, right? And he said yesterday, I told him that was probably the first time when they did that in practice, flip balls with their glove. I put my thumb and my forefinger to my nose, like that stinks, quit the hot dog stuff and just get the out. I told him that was the first time. I think I've never done that. When I saw a play like that, it was a tremendous play. It was instinctual. And he goes, yeah, I couldn't believe I flipped it with my glove when I did. It was just instincts. And that's when you need that type of play. And back to his at bat. Well, that made the whole inning. We wouldn't have won that game without that walk. And I think Zimmerman was on the mound, right? That's what knocked him out of the game, I believe, is that walk. He took some very, very close pitches. And there's a guy that had great plate discipline, and that was the biggest at bat in the game with 2 outs. And then, of course, Posey gets the knock, and then Sandoval hits a double, and Posey's thrown out at the plate for us to take the lead. Our buddy Flan, good decision to make them throw Posey out in that situation. There's 2 outs. Try to score him. They got to execute. They did, but we tied the game, and that's what we needed to do.
I love it. I'm glad that you could talk about it, and you're very much a big part of all this. And you can't talk about this whole run of 2014 without the big guy, without Bumgarner. And what did you think? Should you have started him in the game? Did you always know he was going to come in relief? I was on the air. I remember Wednesday night, I was actually on TV, and after losing 10-0, I said, don't worry, because Bumgarner is going to be in the game tomorrow, and I thought maybe he should start. What was the decision to when to bring him in?
Well, I think, checking with Bum, Boach, and Rags and everybody, we knew we had him in the wings. And it's the last game of the year. Bum, he would have started the game knowing him, but it didn't make sense. We were going to put our starter out there. Whenever you're playing a must-win game, and Game 7 of the World Series is a must-win game, you're not going to be reactive. You're going to be proactive. the pitcher starts giving up a couple runs, your starter falters, you're going to start making moves right away because you got everybody available. And we knew we had Bum there as that weapon. So it was a right decision to make. I think starting would have been a whole different animal because we all know when he came out of that bullpen, in Kansas City, and these fans didn't expect to see him in the game. They were scared to death of Madison Bumgarner. That place went silent. It was just unbelievable. So we had this planned out. Now, Boch and Rags didn't know how many innings we would get out of him. It depends on his pitch count, how the innings went, how he's throwing. But Matt Bum single-handedly won us that World Series by pitching extremely well, not wanting to come out of the game. And if Boch was thinking about taking him out in the ninth, we know Mike Murphy. We heard Boch yesterday on the big screen talking about Mike Murphy was right there telling Boch, "You going to leave him in, Boch?" So we had that covered not to take him out of the game. What a performance by Bum. And as I said, so many great performances, but Bum's was at the very top.
Yeah, tough World Series. I'm telling you, it was one of the all-time World Series. And I always think, just a couple more before we go on to something else. Pablo gets a hitting right-handed against the lefty reliever in the game that the Giants came back and won the game that squared the series up. How about that one?
Yeah, you know what? At that point in time, he wasn't a great right-handed hitter, and like I said, these guys they rose to the moment, and that's what you have to have happen. Because, you're playing an outstanding team. And Pablo had a tremendous playoff run. There's no doubt. In the World Series, the home runs against Verlander, that set the tone right off the bat. But, you're talking about good teams. And we ended up beating Kansas City. But it brings me back to our first World Series in 2002 when you talk about a very good team. And that was the Anaheim Angels, right? Playing them in 2002. Now, we know we weren't able to finish the job. But, winning is so fleeting. And that was a very good team, and we weren't able to hold them down at the end with the lead in Game 6, and that's how fleeting winning and losing can be.
Yeah, boy, amazing. One last thought. All right, it's the ninth inning, and the ball gets kicked in the outfield. And, we were a third base coach, and you got to see it right in front of you. Is there any way that Gordon was going to score? Should they have sent him?
No, I don't believe so. You had your big guy coming up. You have a lefty on the mound, and Bum was pitching great, but you had Perez at the plate. That's your guy. Like Joey Amalfitano always said, I'm making $100,000 and this guy's making $20 million. Let the guy making $20 million decide the outcome. I'm not going to decide the outcome. But a little note on that, it was scary because Perez kicked the ball right, and it's like, God, don't kick it again. The guy's going to score. And Craw had a short hop on the relay, but talking to Joe Panic yesterday, the trail guy in the relay peeks to see what's going on. And Joe, being as good as he was on the fundamentals, was out in position early, and he was peeking. He was peeking to see if they were going to send the runner. And he knew right away when the ball was thrown in from Perez to Crawford that they were holding up the runner. So that's what he was looking for, that he saw the third base coach hold him up. And so he was screaming at Craw, right? No throw. And, of course, Craw got that short hop and picked it clean. That was the most important thing. Of course, you do look to make sure the guy didn't, your fellow teammate is giving you the right word not to throw. And so there's a little insight into that relay right there. And they stopped him. And obviously Bum got Perez to pop up to Pablo, who hit the ground, and the celebration began.
Wow. Boy, it reminds me, I'll go back, 1946 World Series. Enos Slaughter scored from first on a ball that was hit into left center field. Leon Culberson, who was Charlie Culberson's relative, didn't field cleanly and threw it into Johnny Pesky, and Johnny Pesky held it, and Slaughter kept running, and Pesky never made the throw on time, and the Cardinals won the World Series. So that's a good point. Pesky probably needed some help on the throw. Yeah, Leon Culberson was the left fielder.
Well, that's very cool. Charlie was a good player here for the Giants and went on to have a nice career with Atlanta and Colorado and everybody else. Well, I think he was at Colorado first, but no, he was with us first, then to Colorado. But you're right. Those things show up, the fundamentals, the communication, and, the fundamentals for me are the most important thing because it wins and loses games. I mean, everybody sees the pitching and they see the hitting, but these little things add up when you play close games. And that was a one-run game. We're playing close games all the time. And if you're going to beat good teams, you can't give them more outs. You can't make mistakes because winning is that fleeting. So you just don't want to beat yourself.
Yep. Oh, very good. Boy, and one last. I miss Craw. I must tell you, this whole thing, looking at these, the 2014 World Series and all the playoffs, I miss Craw.
Yeah, I miss him too. I mean, he was a great Giant, greatest shortstop of all time for the Giants. We wish they could have gave him the day off. I mean, I don't even think he has 100 at-bats, but of course, being a guy that's driven himself and is going to be there for his team trying to get in the playoffs, there's no way he's going to leave his club to come celebrate as much as he would like to. We missed Craw, we missed Matt Cain, and we missed Tim Lincecum, three very, very important people in this Giant history and in the World Series. And, of course, some of the coaches couldn't make it. Billy Hayes, Roberto Kelly's managing in Mexico. I think he's in a championship series, so he couldn't leave. Bam Bam also with Colorado, working with the Rockies, couldn't be here. But and some of our scouts couldn't make it. Joe LaFay, Steve Balboni, Lee Elder. But it's always great when you can see the guys again, and we wish everybody could have been here.
Yeah, good stuff. I'm so glad we could talk about it. All right, let's talk a little bit about this team. Whoa, they've won, 13 out of 17. They're chasing the wild card. They're only a game and a half behind Atlanta. Atlanta's coming in. This is kind of an exciting time now.
It certainly is. This is go time, right? And specifically today, the team's playing good. They had, a really good road trip. We have momentum. They're finding ways to win these games, which is extremely important. But today is a big game. I know Atlanta's coming in. They haven't been playing well. And you can't really look at the teams you're playing. We all do, right? Because there's games you're supposed to win and games you're not supposed to win necessarily. It's going to be a tougher game. But a game like today, yesterday was a big win because they had a tough flight back from the East Coast. And the first day, the night game, you're fine, but it's the day game the next day, and you're really tired. You feel it. Your body feels it. And today's another one. We won 2 out of 3. And today's a day you really have to push, get your energy level up for 3 hours during that game to try to sweep them, because these wins right here will get you into the playoffs. When you play Arizona, San Diego, you don't want to be in a position where you have to sweep them, or if you don't win 2 out of 3, you have to win every other game to get you in. So, like we like to say, Marty, this is the biggest game of the year today.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan Walker got to close yesterday, and Jim Palmer told me this years ago. Now it's 25, 26, 27. They're different. Walker is the guy now. What do you think?
Well, I think he did fantastic yesterday. Knowing Walk, he's not a guy that looks like he's nervous or unsettled in that moment. He did close in AAA as well, so he knows what it feels like. Of course, it feels a little different here with 40,000 and what's at stake than it does in Sacramento. But he has experience. He's been in the big leagues a few years now, and he has the stuff. So, you know what? I think he's a very capable candidate for us to take over that position, and hopefully Duvall will get on track and we'll have him back soon. But a great opportunity for Walk, and I think he'll rise to the occasion.
All right. Well, look, this team is doing what it's supposed to do right now, and Atlanta's coming in at Austin Riley. Atlanta got loose last night. Olsen had a couple of home runs. Soler had a home run and a big hit. Ozuna had another home run last night. Atlanta is still a solid team, and even though they'd lost 7 straight and their pitching is a little messed up right now, this Atlanta ball club, I never take them for granted.
Well, you can't. They have a history of winning. They still have guys in that club that are major league players that are very good major league players. And, they're too good of a team to stay on an extended losing streak, right? I mean, they really have hit the skids. But, it's hard to imagine that they're going to continue to slide to that degree. So, like any team you're playing, you know, we gotta look at them as the Atlanta Braves when they're hot and with all the people on the field, and take care of business.
All right, get some runs early today. That's the key for me. No more no hitters. I'm getting a little nervous here. They're not getting hits, you know.
Well, you're right. You know, when it gets into the seventh inning and you don't have a hit, it's not a real good feeling. But it's nice to see us, you know, win a game on 3 sac flies and do some little things to help us win, even on the defensive plays, et cetera. And those are things that helps your offense, as we just talked about earlier, you know, not beating yourself. So these guys will break out. They have it in them.
All right. Hey, good to talk to you. I'm glad we're back. And next week it's the A's, so we got plenty to talk about next week. Have a good day today, Will.
Thanks, Marty. Great to have you back. And Glenn did a great job last week. Enjoyed being with them, and look forward to talking to you next week.
Cool. All right. Have a good day. All right. That is the professor, Ron Wotus. Glenn Kuiper next, right here on the Sports Leader.
Talking baseball with Marty Lurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.
Here's the pitch. Wisely hits a ground ball fair. Past the dive of the first baseman, Madris, and down the right field line. Yaz has scored, and here comes Encarnacion right behind him, and he scores a double for Brett Wisely, and just like that, the Giants have gone ahead 2-1.
Prepping you for today's orange and black ball game, we now take you back to Talking Baseball with Marty Laurie on KNBR, the sports leader.
All right, great to have you with us on this beautiful Sunday morning. Glenn Kuiper joins us. Glenn, how are you today?
I'm great, Marty. How you doing?
Good, and thank you so much. Thank you and Sandra G. for sitting in for me last week while I got to see the great Alaskan inland waterway.
Yeah, you looked cold, Marty. You were all bundled up.
I didn't know what I was getting into. Trust me. I'm a kid from Florida, so but it was
I
fun.
Hope you had a good time.
Yeah, it was great, and I got to hear a little bit of you guys, so it was fun. But thank you for doing that. But while I'm gone, the team is starting to win, and they're taking care of business. And you've seen the Tigers for many years, and this is not our Tiger team that we've seen before. But what's your take on the Giants right now, and also the Tigers a little bit?
Well, we talked, Marty, where we've been waiting, for 4 months for this stretch where the Giants put together some wins, got themselves over 500, and we really have been waiting for it for a long time. Now it's here, and they're doing it. 4 in a row, 6 out of 7, 12 out of 15. So it's got them 3 games over 500. So they finally got themselves kind of over that 500 hump, picking up some games in the standings. And I think it's really all revolved around the starting pitching. Even though Birdsong has had a hiccup, Harrison has struggled some his last 2 outings, but I still think it revolves around the starting pitching and the guys in the bullpen. And if this team can just figure out a way to capitalize a little bit more on their offensive opportunities, I think they're leaving some runs out there. But luckily lately they're hitting home runs. But I think if this team can maybe just improve situational hitting a little bit down the stretch here and score a few more runs, I think they have a chance to really put it together. Because, Marty, if you look at that September schedule, everybody they play is in it. And so they're really going to have to be hitting on all cylinders come September if they're going to, get into this thing. So, but they've been playing good baseball, and they've been a lot of fun to watch. As far as the Tigers go, it's just a hard team to figure out. You do always think back of and the A's found out in 2012 and 2013 with Verlander and Scherzer and Miguel Cabrera, and they had such good teams, right? But it's just been a struggle for this Tigers team. They had the first pick a couple years ago. The Torkelson kid has struggled. I was looking forward to seeing Riley, their very good young outfielder, this weekend. He hasn't played. So it just seems like they can't get any momentum going as an organization, and it's been a while since, they've been a competitive team.
Yeah, and A.J. Hinch, I like him, and he seems to be in a good mood. They got some pitching, and maybe it's the Giants hitting, but that combination, their pitching is not terrible. They're going to throw a kid today I've never seen before, Kiter Montero, but they can pitch a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's, what they're trying to build on. And Scooble's great. But if you look too, Marty, the last 5 or 6 years, if you go back, they've drafted, some college pitchers high, right? And thinking that, okay, we can put this all together around these guys, and it just hasn't worked out. These kids that they drafted high that they really liked, whether it be a college kid or a high school kid, they just haven't, been able to push through and become, really effective big leaguers. And I think that is held them back. So they've had a plan, but the plan just, didn't really work through it. I know the kid that pitched yesterday was part of that. Fido, believe is how they pronounce his name.
Yeah.
He was a high draft pick. And he hasn't really turned out the way they had hoped. So, you can have a plan, but the kids still have to play and live up to that, and they just haven't done it.
Yeah, you're right. Casey Mize was the other one top pick in the draft, and he's been banged up. He's a top pitcher. He would be like a Skeens for Pittsburgh, but it hasn't happened for him. I made a big deal out of yesterday seeing Mark Canha play at home here and just watching him play. And, of course, I haven't seen him play as much as you have, but, boy, he's 35. He brings something to the table that the Giants have not had, and that he looks like a gamer. And I just like the way he approaches it. Am I right on that?
You are absolutely 100% right, and I think that's the reason they got him. There's an edge to how he plays. Bob Melvin loves him, and there's something to be said about a veteran. I know we talk so much about the young kids, and we all want to see him play. But one thing that I've scratched my head a little bit about is a lot of people, a lot of Giants fans saying, well, what did they get Canha for? What do we don't really need him. Is that, yeah, you do. You need a guy like that. And if you just watch him play, if you just watch his at-bats, to me, I can see it, right? Because he thinks at the plate, right? 2 strikes, I got to choke up a little bit, or I got to take a little out of my swing. And listen, what we've seen from Giants hitters the last couple months, Marty, with the guy on third and 1 out, we've seen a lot of struggles, a lot of strikeouts, right, in those situations. But what Canha does is he just has the approach where, well, you know what, when I get to 2 strikes, I'm going to do everything I can to not strike out. And we saw it in Washington. He had a big hit in Washington off a real tough reliever in Finnegan. We saw the sacrifice fly on Friday night. These are small things, but yet they're not small. And I think he is improving the area where the Giants have struggled offensively, and that's in these situational spots, where they have guys on third or guys in scoring position. He's going to give you a good at-bat. And, I was thrilled when they got him because I've seen him play, and I know what he can do. He can play in the outfield for you still. He made a great play at first base yesterday. And, this guy's still a pretty good player. And I think you said it, he is a gamer. And he loves to play. He's excited to be here. He's played in, postseason. He knows what that's all about. He's not going to be overwhelmed. Why wouldn't you want this guy? And I think Giants fans should be excited about having him. I don't care how old he is. None of that matters to me. This is about winning games and putting your best team out there, and he's pretty darn good. And I just like what he brings, and young guys should be watching him in these different situations when he steps in the box.
No, you're exactly right. Boy, you explained it so well. Ken Maka told me this years ago. It's September, the pros take over. And that's exactly what this guy is. And come on, look at Chapman. You've been down the road with him in all the playoff games. Look what he gives you every day.
Yep. I mean, yesterday was a perfect example. He didn't do much offensively, but he may have made the play of the game. If that ball falls and, rolls down the left field line, listen, you're going to have one run's going to score for sure, and you're going to have guys on second and third. I mean, that's as big of a play as there's been all year defensively. And he's made a lot of big ones. So, yeah, it's just little things like that. And, I've loved Chapman since, he got up with the A's just because of he plays hard. He's a leader. And you remember last year, Marty, we talked about how there just wasn't enough guys in the lineup who you could put in the lineup every day. You had a platoon, this and that. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Giants and Bob really wanted Chapman, because they knew they could set him out there every day. Low-maintenance guy. You don't have to worry about him, and he's going to produce for you. And that's exactly what he's done.
Yep. I'm looking forward to him down the stretch and see what he does. Well, all right, so it's the Tigers today. We know that they're challenged offensively and not a bad pitching team. A kid I've never seen before pitching today, gives up a few home runs. But then the Braves come in, and the Giants are a game and a half behind the Braves. The Braves got loose yesterday in Colorado, broke the losing streak, and the big bats started booming them. Olsen had a couple of home runs. What do you see with the Braves? Should we take them lightly? I know they're banged up. What do you think?
Well, you can't take them lightly. Yeah, they're a strange team. You look at that lineup, even with Acuna's obviously out, and even with the injuries they've had, you can't imagine that lineup would struggle to score runs, but it really has. Giants have scored more runs than the Braves have this year. So that's a strange thing, but they're scary, and they will start playing better. But if you're the Giants, I mean, it's the spot you want to be in, Marty, right? You're a game and a half out. We'll see where they are at the end of today. The team that you're chasing 3 or 4 teams, but the closest team is right there, the Braves, and they're coming into your ballpark for a 4-game series, and you're playing well. So, listen, it's lined up the way you'd want it, but they are a very good team, and I just would not be surprised if, at some point, they start kicking it in a little bit too. But, too, Marty, you think about the Braves. The Braves, they still have 7 games with the Phillies, and so do the Mets. Mets still have 7 games with the Phillies. So those 2 teams that the Giants are chasing for that 3rd wild card spot, they still got some games to play against the team with the best record in the National League. So that's something to keep an eye on, too, down the road.
Boy, this is going to be good stuff. Great report. I'm glad to get you on today, and as we do every Sunday, and look forward to next Sunday. It's the last game, the Oakland A's and the Giants, the last game next Sunday, and we'll be on for that one. How about that?
Absolutely, and we'll have lots to talk about. Very strange to say, what you just said, and it's too bad. It's sad, and I feel bad for the great fans of the A's. They're running out of home games to enjoy what they've seen for such a long time.
Yeah, boy, it's going to be something next weekend. All right, have a good day, Glenn, and thanks again for stepping in last weekend. I appreciate it.
No problem. It was awesome. Thanks for the opportunity, Marty, and I'll talk to you next week.
All right, that's good. Glenn Kuiper, always a pleasure on this Sunday morning. Bruce Jenkins next, right here on the Sports Leader. It's been a pleasure working with... It's been a pleasure working with Rick Robin this year. Rick Robin, ROBBEN, NapaConstruction.com. Rick, the last time you were on with us, you told us about kitchen and bath remodeling, but there's a lot more going on up in your area.
Yes, there is. ADUs, auxiliary dwelling units, which are nose to drain units. We can do your existing garage, attached garage, even building a new unit in the back. And so what we do is come out, bring our architect out there. Such a great thing. No sewer hookup fees, no water hookup fees. So that's what we do.
Rick, how does one start the process with you? How does one get in touch with you?
Oh, you call Tammy, 707-332-7575, 7 days a week.
Rick Robin, ConstructionNapa.com. Rick, the thing I like about this, no problem for me. You come out with the plans, the permits, everything is in-house, no fees, and you get a new unit that you can rent out and get money back on your investment right away. I like it, Rick.
Thanks, Marty. Love talking to you.
Rick Robin, ConstructionNapa.com.
Look through the window of the original Joe's on North Beach and you'll see two guys at the counter talking ball. Time for you to listen in to their conversation. Marty Laurie and the SF Chronicles' Bruce Jenkins are looking through the window of baseball. Sponsored by Original Joe's of North Beach and Westlake on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
All right, great to have you back with us on this Sunday morning talking ball here. I got a few nice tweets this morning. Jeff Stuff 49 listening in Iceland. Sue France up in Portland, and Nora Russo listening in Greece. Bruce Jenkins, how about that?
Listening in Montera, lovely Montera, California.
Really? I love it. Yeah, I got to do that again. I like finding out where everyone is. It's amazing, isn't it, with the streaming and everything? With people listen to you all over the world.
Well, Marty, I tell you, you're a big name wherever you go.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that endorsement. Thank you. Boy, things are looking up for this ball club. I mean, you know, they're chasing some hot teams right now, but actually they're in decent shape as we, go into the end of August here.
Well, I mean, if you're the Dodgers, you're thinking, okay, Arizona's won 14 out of 17. San Diego's won 16 out of 18, but the Giants have won 12 out of 15. I mean, the whole division is just exploding underneath the Dodgers, and it almost feels like it won't be long before one of these teams takes over first place. I mean, it's just wild, and it's especially wild that the Giants are so relevant while San Diego and Arizona are just totally going off. I mean, the Giants are a game and a half out of the third wild card spot, so there you have it.
Boy, the Mets, I was going to bring them up. They haven't scored in Seattle here for a couple of days. And, they're on a road trip that took them to the Angels, to St. Louis, to Colorado, to Seattle. How about that for a road trip?
Oh, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I remember the old days of Baltimore, Boston, and Yankee Stadium. That's a sensible road trip. Things get a little crazy now. It's everybody's playing everybody, and you got to go interleague. And I would tell you, people will criticize the schedule, and with a lot of reason. But if you ever would try to take it out yourself, I mean, the schedule makers. That's one of the hardest things in sports to do. Any major sports schedule.
Well, they used to be like regular people. Remember, a couple used to make the schedule. And in their house, they used to do this, and now, of course, it's done by computer. But they did it, and you had the conventions and all this stuff in the circus in the middle of it, and you had to figure out where teams could play. They used to do it by hand.
Yeah, and, a lot of unfortunate things happen now. I mean, the fact that the Giants don't play the Dodgers anymore is very unfortunate. But, every team has something like that, and every team has a team in September. It's like, well, how did these guys show up on the schedule? So, but it's easy. Play what's in front of you, right?
Yep. Logan Webb, first of all, a very exciting day yesterday at the ballpark, 40,000 out there, and it really brought back a World Series, Bruce, that was a classic World Series. This was not a gimme in any sense of the word. But Logan Webb yesterday stood up in front of the 40,000 and pitched against a Tiger team that, as I said, was toothless. But he still did his job, and he's thrown more innings than anybody in the National League.
Well, it was so great that he was out there for this day. I mean, it's a beautiful, the fact that the timing was just perfect. I mean, Bumgarner's in town. Bumgarner doesn't really go anywhere. He hasn't made any public appearances since he left the game, and he was, when he rode out on the horse that day, he didn't want to do that. He's very uncomfortable. He was uncomfortable with Kruko and Kuiper. He was very pleasant, but he didn't just, he wasn't too expansive. He just doesn't like the attention coming his way, which is so refreshing. So many players are celebrating and they're showmen, and which is all great. But Bumgarner is so old school, but Webb, Bummy loves Webb because he's going to pitch a lot of innings. It won't be long before he puts together a few more complete games. He reminds you of Bumgarner and Kane and Lincecum, and it was a beautiful thing that he was out there, and that Bumgarner got to see that, because it was just a day to reflect on how great that World Series was, and how the Giants still have a few players who could put together a run to get into the postseason.
Yeah, and he's pitched 157 innings, and he's got probably maybe 8 starts. There's 43 games to go, so maybe 8 starts to go. He's going to throw 220 again, something like that.
Yeah, he's built for it. He wants it. Why not? There's nothing that says just because innings limits and, during game limits are so heavily monitored these days, there's no reason why somebody can't pitch a whole bunch of innings and throw in a few complete games like the way it used to be. I mean, it's not that complicated. There are going to be people who do this, and I'll tell you, tomorrow, I don't know how long they're going to go, but with Snell and Sale out there, that's a heck of a matchup with the Braves coming in. Maybe the two nastiest lefties in the league. So to come with Webb and Snell back to back at this stage of the season is a beautiful thing.
Oh, that's going to be a very special game. The Braves got it live yesterday. They've always played well in Colorado. They have some amazing record against the Rockies there. But they swung the bats yesterday. Olsen got a couple of home runs. Ozuna got one. Soler is hitting the ball a little bit. This is going to be some series. This is not going to be, the Braves have lost 7 in a row. Let's just take 3 or 4 by showing up.
Well, they still have. I mean, Olsen, obviously 2 homers. One of them is just going off routinely. Austin Riley's there. They got Sean Murphy back. That's still a pretty good lineup. And they do seem to be reviving a little bit after getting they scared everybody's scaring the hell out of them now in the wild card race. What the hell? They were the one team you knew was going to get the wild card, and now that's hardly the case. But they come in and it's a huge test for the Giants because let's face it, the Tigers they have one tooth. I think you might have missed that, but but the Braves are absolutely for real lineup. Soler's homered in 2 straight games. He started out really slow, but he's since we're talking about Soler and so recently with the Giants, I mean he's been playing in the outfield and he's not good out there. He's not they can't have him really out there down the stretch, and so he's a DH. But what do you really do with him? I mean, these guys have Ozuna and Kelenic and Laureano and Duvall and Rosario. Harris is coming back, and it's going to be tough for him to. He's going to have to keep hitting, or he might find himself pinch hitting.
Yeah, it's like Vladimir Guerrero playing right field in the World Series against the Giants. It didn't look right, and they're going to have trouble with. If you put Soler. Can you put him in right field at Oracle? I don't think so. You can't do that. No. You can't do that. But so we'll see. But the Braves are definitely, a team you have to deal with. San Diego, Bruce, they're down 7-3, to the Marlins. The Marlins don't have much of a bullpen, and before you know it, they win the game 9-8, and Manny makes just a tremendous throw to the plate to cut down a runner. Trying to score from third. He threw it. I think he threw it through his helmet. I don't know how he got it to the catcher. But they end up winning a big game again, and they've won 7 straight. And like you said, 16 out of 18.
Unbelievable. I tell you, this kid, Jackson Merrill.
We love him.
The day before, they're talking about Mel Ott in 1929. He was the last guy to have 4 home runs that either tied the game or put him ahead in the 9th inning or later. And then yesterday, he comes up and hits a 2-run homer to tie it. Like you say, they were down 7-3. Next thing you know, he hits a 2-run homer to tie it, and they push across a run, and Tanner Scott gets the save. And, man, they've got something going down there.
Yeah, it's going well, and they get Cease today. I think he's pitching today against the Marlins, so we'll see what happens there. The Dodger game was interesting last night. They beat Paul Skeens, but River Ryan, the greatest name in baseball today, comes out after 4 2/3. He's got tightness in the forearm, and once again there's trouble. And the other thing I want to mention, a couple of things. One is that one. The other one is Kiermaier. Bruce, this guy may be the best defensive center fielder that I've seen in years. Unbelievable, the stuff that he does.
Good. Yeah.
Isn't he something?
Oh, man. That just he makes 5 or 6 just miraculous-looking catches every season. That was a really good pickup for them. They talk about Kopech and some of the adjustments they've made. They got Ahmed at short. They're doing a bunch of things and trying to figure it out. But that's something, a great. It's like having a great shortstop. It makes such a difference. So the way Chapman plays third, it's such a huge thing to have a really just like one of the best defenders in the game at a key position. That's really going to help him. And I guess Betts is going to go back to right field when he comes back, which I believe is tomorrow. So they're going to stick with Ahmed at short, and Ahmed and maybe a cast of thousands.
Yeah, defense wins.
Yeah.
It wins. And look, we talk about. I want to bring up another guy with you. That's Mike Yastrzemski. And I realize, he hits a lot of pop-ups. He'll strike out here and there. But, boy, defensively, he's very, very good in right field. And he gets a number of hits. He does. And maybe the batting average in the world today, if you hit 300, man, you're Rogers Hornsby to do that. But he does come through it and hitting at 240. Somehow or another, he makes something happen. I think it's worthy to mention him today.
Oh, yeah. Like when he's slumping, he's at 240. When he's on a streak, he's at 240. Every time we look at him, he's right which is not great for a corner outfielder in the National League. But to have we were talking about Soler versus Yastrzemski in right field, talk about a huge difference. I mean, to have a really good right fielder in the Giants park is huge, and he does come up with some big hits. He really does, and good for him. He's such a good guy. He's very well liked, and I've been on his case, thinking they should be getting more out of him, more out of somebody, in their corner outfield. But he always comes in and makes you think twice about things. So having a good impact.
Yeah, quietly. If the ball, it's like Chapman. If the ball's hit to third, put it in the book. If the ball's hit to right field, this guy catches it, and he catches it effortlessly. So I like it. I like what I see with him. Chapman yesterday made another great play at third. I talk about Mark Canha being a gamer. He's been down the stretch before. Chapman's been in the playoffs before. Chapman, Bruce, the guy plays every day. He never comes out.
Yeah, he's another guy that reminds you of 2014. He's a guy. He's so reliable, and he's fun to watch. He's not a showman, but he's an entertainer because his talent is so spectacular. He's hit a bunch of home runs. It's a crushing thing to think that he might opt out. It really is. I mean, obviously his value is going to be great, and the more he hits, his value just skyrockets. And I just can't stress enough how annoying the old opt-out thing is, because you sign a guy except you really don't. But for right now, we've got maybe the best defensive third baseman in the game, even over Arenado, just for the seasons they're having this year.
Yep. No, I agree. Arizona maybe got a bit. Well, first of all, they get Merrill Kelly back today. Gallen, their other pitcher, left the game yesterday with body cramps. I never heard of that before.
Yeah, what the hell is that?
I don't know what's up with him. but Kelly today. But Ketel Marte, who hit his 30th homer last night, they just crushed the Phillies and Aaron Nola. Aaron Nola can't pitch in that ballpark. Marte got his ankle twisted and his knees bent back a little bit on a slide coming into second base by one of the runners yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that. That looked bad, and he was limping off. And I mean, that guy's having an unbelievable year. That home run, I think, was number 30. And every day he does something, and that's a good lineup. But it was like if you lose Carroll, you lose an awful lot. If you lose Marte, you lose an awful lot. But they pounded out 15 hits, and they're just out of their minds right now, Arizona. Just like the Padres and I don't know if the Giants are out of their minds, but they keep winning. And if they win that Atlanta series, the people are really going to take notice.
Well, St. Louis lost yesterday, and again, this Katie Wu was on with us yesterday from The Athletic and said that Bobby Witt maybe is the best guy to watch. Must-see TV. Bruce, he's leading the majors now at 347, and it seems like Kansas City is pretty good. They're pretty good. They're better than they're hanging. Look, it's August 11th. They're still in it, and Bobby Witt is leading the major leagues at 347.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's talking about that Cleveland-Minnesota race in the American League, and it's a great one. Cleveland finally won a game, and they put it to 2.5, but KC's 3.5 back.
Right.
And, in that division, when you have a guy like Bobby Witt and, Salvi Perez in a different way, that's a team you have to watch out for. I love Bobby Witt just blowing by Stephen Kwan to take that batting average lead, like you said, and he's just he's magic, that kid. He's one of those guys like Bonds and Griffey who grew up with the game that Dad played, and he's been comfortable around a clubhouse since he was like 4, but he's a great hitter and a tremendous fielder and a leader and just a reason to come to the ballpark. So yeah, you can't rule them out with him in the lineup.
No, and we talk about this every week, and I'm glad we can. The batting average leaders, the American League, it's still a good race with Witt and Kwan and Judge and Vladdy and Yordan Alvarez and Soto. Then you finally get to the National League, and the leading hitter is Arise at 302.
There's four 300 hitters in the league, Marty.
How
that
about
just
that?
Doesn't play. That does not play, and 3 of them are right at 300.
Exactly.
And then you have Arias at 302. He should be around 340. I don't know what's going on with him. He's just so good, but that's pretty wacky. I think the American League, they at least have like 8 300 hitters over there. But yeah, it's really unsettling. Guys like Profar and Ohtani, they're right below. They could get in there, and Arias is going to win that. But to have 4, I don't get that at all.
Well, baseball doesn't seem to be really concerned about it, but when you think about it, on base is important. You get a walk, you get on, and all this stuff. But when you get a hit, things can happen. Runners run. Fielders can miss the ball in the. It's good to get hits. Hits are good.
It's like people. They scoff at RBIs. Well, he just drove in a run. Okay, what? That's not good. I mean, it's obviously these other stats tell you a little bit more detail, but to just disparage batting average or RBIs or runs scored is just ludicrous. It still matters, but it's just really a testament in both leagues. So few 300 hitters that the pitching is so good, and we talk about this all the time, but it really is just incredible. I mean, especially on a night when you get 6 innings of shutout ball from somebody, then the next 3 you get three new guys, and they're all completely different, throwing 98 to 102, and it's just it's so tough to hit these days.
Yep, you're right. It's hard to hit, and it's the pitching that's done it. This Bobby Witt's got 164 hits already. He's got 20 more than Vlad Jr. at 144. He may get 240 hits. We'll see what happens where this ends up. Home run Judge is 41. Ozuna's 35 now. He's tied Ohtani. How about that? Yeah,
definitely. Ohtani's still going for that Triple Crown, but he and Ozuna both have 35, and then you get down to Marte at 30. But I'm pulling for Ohtani there. I'm not a fan of the Dodgers, but I just love watching him make history in all these different ways that he does it. He's obviously in the batting race. He's not hitting 300. He's right there though, and that's obviously there for the taking. And he's right there with Ozuna and the homers. And Ozuna's got him in the RBIs right now, 90 to 83. But Ohtani, he can get 5 to today. So that'll be fun.
The other one, the Triple Crown, we'll leave it with this one. I think Ohtani's got trouble in the Triple Crown, but Judge still is in the mix. He's 41 and 105. They lead, and he's hitting 323 to Witt's 347. That's not impossible. I'd say Judge is still in the mix, I think.
Well, he's definitely going to get homers and RBIs. That's unless he gets hurt. And I like the way they lead him off because you don't really want to intentionally walk the first guy you see. You're just not competing. They're talking about maybe making that a permanent thing. But the batting average will be tough. Witt, Kwan is the kind of guy who could get back up to around 340. And Witt's he's just unstoppable. But Judge is 323. You don't know. He's a wonderful hitter. He's obviously not a lot more than power. And he could do that. That'd be fun.
Yeah. How about Vlad Jr.? Bruce, he's got a 22-game hitting streak. And, of course, Toronto's starting to win a little bit more, but they're buried here in the East. But the guy is 40 for 81, something like that.
Yeah, I had no idea. Toronto is it's a team you wind up just sort of dismissing them around this time every year with all that talent, but you just don't pay much attention. And with Gosman and Bassett and Vladdy and Biggio, not Biggio, but Bichette, and all that talent, and it just never seems to make a big difference. And Vladdy never seems to make a tremendous difference. I kind of thought he might be traded at the deadline, which would be really dramatic for somebody, but he's always been a monstrous talent. But I had no idea he was putting up those numbers, because I just, you pay more attention to them than the toothless tigers. I think they have a whole set of front teeth, but they don't seem relevant. They just don't seem very relevant.
No, it never happens for him. George Springer, he's got some leadoff home runs, but other than that, and Vladdy, they're done. They're done. Good historical note for today from, of course, it's August 11th, 1962. God, this was a great one. Maury Wills is running like crazy. The Dodgers, score 2 runs and win a game 2-1 all the time. And they do it with speed. So Alvin Dark, the Giants manager, says, I'm going to wet down the infield by first base. And they do that. The Dodgers complain. And Alvin Dark is known as the Swamp Fox. How about that day?
Yeah, well, his mentor was Leo DeRocher, who never missed a trick. So, Alvin Dark always had stuff like this in the back of his mind. But, you talk about guys today like Ellie De La Cruz, is 40 stolen bases, and Ohtani's going to maybe get there. Well, Maury Wills was on his way to 104 that season. That's how many bases he stole. So you bet they were trying to figure out a way to stop him. So the Dodgers show up that day, and the infield's soaking wet around first base. The umpires didn't have any choice but just toss sand on it. So he had a sandbox over there. And, Wills, for some reason, they pinch hit for him after his first at-bat. I don't know what was going on there, but it turned into anything but base running, because Tommy Davis hit a 3-run homer off Billy Pierce, and then McCovey and Drysdale. That's one of the most I wouldn't say it's lopsided, but McCovey pretty much owned Don Drysdale, which was very hard to do. And he hit a 3-run homer that made the difference. The Giants won that game 5-4.
I love it. The Swamp Fox.
Yeah.
That was great. Oh, boy. All right. Well, we'll see what the Toothless Tigers can do today. It's a major league game. And, the pressure's on Birdsong a little bit. And he's been terrific. But he is 22, and teams don't like to get swept, so it's we'll see how it turns out. Yeah. All right, but good week of baseball coming up. Look forward to talking to you next Saturday. Thanks, Bruce.
Absolutely. Okay, Marty. Talk then.
Good. Have a good day. All right. A very, very good author coming up. Peter Golenbock. He's a longtime sports writer, and on the stream I'll hold up the book. It's Baseball Heaven. Up close and personal, what it was really like in the major leagues. He did some great interviews, and we've got a nice short interview with Peter about his book coming up next right here on The Sports Leader.
Talking baseball with Marty Laurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, The Sports Leader.
Everyone likes a party, but everyone loves a party at Original Joe's. With 3 private dining rooms, it's the perfect spot to hold your next big event. From christenings to corporate gatherings, we'll make your next party San Francisco special. Original Joe's, see you at the counter.
Another year of baseball, America's favorite pastime. Baseball is rich in tradition, it's full of history, and so are the Georgie brothers. They've served the Bay Area for over 90 years. The 50,000 square foot showroom, which I mention all the time, is full of some of the finest manufacturers of furniture, carpets, and window coverings. Now, here we go. One of the most popular furniture lines that I love, you know it, is Stressless. Stressless makes high-quality, comfortable furniture, including sectional sofas, love seats, single reclining chairs, as well as the famous Stressless chair and ottoman, and that's what I got. Starting August 9th and running all the way until August 26th, there's a new Stressless promotion. We call it the Wing Promotion. During this sale, you'll receive a $500 instant savings on every wing-style chair and ottoman in Paloma leathers. It's an unbelievable savings. This is one of the largest sales events Stressless Furniture offers throughout the year. So that's Georgie Brothers. It's Georgie Brothers Furniture. The showroom is in South San Francisco, the best source for home furnishings. Visit them at georgiebrothers.com. That's GIORGIBROS.com. And remember, tell them that Marty sent you.
Orange and Black family, the godfather of Giants baseball now continues. This is Talkin' Baseball with Marty Laurie on KNBR, the sports leader.
Fans, it's great to have you back with us as we get ready for Giants baseball. What a pleasure to bring this author to you. He really is one of the best in the country. His name is Peter Golenbock. We've had him on the show before. He's got a new book out. It's called Baseball Heaven, Up Close and Personal, What It Was Really Like in the Major Leagues. Let me tell you a little bit about Peter. He's been on our show before, as I said. He's written more than 60 books, including 10 New York Times bestsellers. His books on baseball include Dynasty, the New York Yankees, 1949 to 64, The Bronx Zoo with Sparky Lyle, that was a good one, Bums, an oral history of my Brooklyn Dodgers, Balls with Craig Nettles, Amazing, the miraculous history of New York's most beloved baseball team, and the book that we had him on last year, Whispers of the Gods, Tales from Baseball's Golden Age, told by the men who played it. And Peter, it's a pleasure to have you back on the show. How are you?
Just wonderful, Mark. Just terrific. Thank you very much for having me on tonight.
No, we're glad to have you. This book, as I let the fans know, I've done interviews for years, and I picked this book up and I started looking at it, and it's interviews of well-known baseball personalities, but when you get into the meat of the content of the interview, it's as candid as any book, as any interview I've ever read. So I congratulate you for that, but I want the fans to know a little bit more about you and how you got into this business of writing and what your background is in sports and college and all that kind of stuff.
You have about 3 hours. Anyhow, we'll do the short way.
Reader's Digest, yes.
Yes, I was working. I was the sports editor of the Dartmouth at Dartmouth College. So Red Rolfe was the athletic director, and he was third baseman for the Yankees during the late 30s and the 40s. And I loved sitting and talking with Red. So I had that. When I was a kid, when I was 13 years old, I read a book called The New York Yankees by Frank Graham. It was about Ruth and Gehrig and DiMaggio, and I just loved it. I grew up in Stamford, Connecticut, and every year of my life, except for one or two, we won the American League pennant. So after college, I went to law school at NYU. I got a job working for Prentice Hall doing President Nixon's wage and price control. I did that for about 6 weeks, and I didn't much like it because every time they wanted to raise the prices, the companies wanted to raise the prices, the Nixon's board let them do it. And every time the workers wanted to raise, they always turned them down. So it was a little frustrating for me. So I thought, this is Prentice Hall. They have a trade book division. I would like to write the sequel to Frank Graham's The New York Yankees. So I went downstairs and knocked on the door of the guy who ran the place and basically talked him into giving me a contract to write Dynasty, which was the Yankees from 49 to 64, 16 years, 14 pennants, 9 world championships.
Yeah, come on. I can relate to it, being a criminal lawyer myself for 25 years, a defense lawyer. I know what you went through, and you ended up with the passion, something that you love. But you also had a little bit of a radio career, which I realized in reading some of this book. Go ahead.
I did. Yes, I did. WOR in 1981 hired me to do a talk show from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock Saturday nights. And I did that, and I had wonderful, wonderful guests. WOR was about the biggest radio station in New York City. The problem was that they paid me $100 a week. And after about 9 months of that, this was starting to hurt me financially. So I thought I would ask them for a raise to a whopping $300 a week. And they said no, and that was the end of my radio career.
You also worked with Charlie Steiner in that capacity, didn't you?
I certainly did. Charlie was the news guy on WOR and about the smartest person I'd ever run across. And he loved sports as well as he loved the news. And just about every single show, I managed to have Charlie on as a guest just to talk. And he was always just fabulous. And I was never surprised when Charlie ended up being somebody's yacker, and he is with the Giants, and he's fabulous.
Yeah, Charlie Steiner is one of the best. Our guest is Peter Golenbock, Golenbock. The book is Baseball Heaven, up close and personal, what it was really like in the major leagues. It's put out by Roman and Littlefield, and of course we support our local bookstore in Montclair. David sent me a copy of this book from the book tree, so that's how I got it, so I'm glad to have it here. But Peter, let's talk about the book itself, the interviews, because there are names in here when you start realizing it's Bobby Thompson and Ralph Branca and Elston Howard and Doc Ellis and people like that. How did you come about getting your lineup for this particular book?
Well, I thought I would pick the people I thought were the most interesting in what it is that they had to say. And that's why I picked it. You asked me about Del Webb, who was the owner of the Yankees. When I did Dynasty, I had the opportunity to go to his mansion and interview him for about an hour and a half. And what surprised me, this guy, obviously multi-millionaire. Del Webb properties are all over this country. But more than anything else, he loved baseball. He loved baseball, and I was able to get him talking to me about how it was that he bought the Yankees, how it was that he hired Casey Stengel to be the manager in 1948, some of the decisions that he made to make the team as great as it became, and also why he fired Stengel, back after the 1960 season. He was fascinating.
What did he say about that? Casey always said, "I'll never make the mistake of being 70 again."
Well, that's pretty much true. The other thing, of course, is that they had Ralph Houck in the wings, and they were afraid that another outfit would steal Ralph Houck away from them. They really wanted Ralph to be the manager, and so they let Casey go so that they could hire Ralph to be the manager.
Talking with Peter Golenbock, the Del Webb interview is, I think, just terrific. Getting the team with Dan Topping and Larry McPhail, who, of course, tried to kidnap the Kaiser in World War I.
He tried.
He tried. but he was irascible. He drank a lot. He fired people all the time. And he butted heads with Del Webb. And when you did that, you didn't win. But the book, you really tell the story. Del Webb really tells you the story as to what happened. It sounded like sort of something out of The Godfather almost.
Well, it sort of was. I mean, the great joy of my life is that I've been able to do this. Dynasty was, I started doing the interviews in 1973. So what is that, 50 years ago? And I've got all these people in my head. You know, they're all still there, and I've got them all on tape too, which is a wonderful thing. So what I would do, for instance, for Dynasty, I'd probably use one page of the interview I did with Del Webb, and this book gave me the opportunity to show people, everything that we talked about.
Well, I'll tell you, this is a good book. There are 18 separate long interviews in here, but the in-depth questioning and the candidness of the subject really just jumps out at me. So it's a good one. And I'm glad to have Peter Golenbock on. He's really talented. Baseball heaven, up close and personal, what it was really like in the major leagues. So there's more to that interview, and if you go to loveofthegameproductions.com or the KNBR podcast page, you'll hear more from Peter. But it's a good one. Really in-depth things. I really learned about the people that Peter interviewed. Did a nice job. All right, more coming up. Joe Sheehan, he's got the best baseball newsletter. He's on with us every couple of weeks. Let's see what he thinks about the wild card and the NL West. Coming up next, right here in the Sports Leader.
Talking baseball with Marty Lurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.
Experience the epitome of luxury and craftsmanship with Inicio Windows and Doors, another exciting product line from BMD Manufacturing. Inicio Windows and Doors sets the standard in ultra-premium European design. Wow. For the most demanding American building standards. Available both in steel and aluminum, they are meticulously engineered to elevate your living space to new heights of sophistication. Learn more about Inicio Windows and Doors today. Discover the perfect blend of European beauty and style with unwavering durability and strength. Visit InicioWindows.com. INICIO Windows.com. Inicio Windows and Doors, where European design meets American craftsmanship.
Giants fans, there's no better way to set the game day table than talking baseball with Marty Laurie. Marty keeps rolling on KNBR, the sports leader.
All right, great to have you back with us. The Giants lineup is out. Fitzgerald leading off. Just leave him in there every game. Let him lead off. Wade is in there. Ramos, Conforto, Chapman, Yaz, Bailey, Encarnacion, and Wisely, the bunter, is hitting ninth today. Joe Sheehan joins us. It's the best newsletter out there. I tell you that. I love getting it every other day. JoeSheehan.com. Joe, good morning. How are you?
Good, Marty. Getting ready for another fun day of ball here.
Boy, isn't it the truth? And, look, the Giants are, 13-4. And they're chasing San Diego and Arizona, and they're losing ground.
Yeah, the National League West just won't lose right now. The Padres have had a series of miracle wins. The Giants, look, I mean, this is the team that we kind of were waiting for all year, right? And one of the reasons I said the Giants, which I didn't like the idea of the Giants selling, was because once they got their pitching healthy, they had a chance to go on a run like this. You mentioned the 14-8 since the break, 13 of the last 17. The run prevention's been good. Since the break, they're a top 10 offense and a top 10 pitching staff.
Well, how do you look at this wild card race? You look at the road trip the Mets have been on. My God, they sent them all over the country, and they can't score against Seattle. Atlanta goes through this losing streak, and then they get loose last night, and they love hitting in Colorado anyway. And then you get the Cardinals run into the buzzsaw of the Royals, and the Giants kind of steadily hanging in there.
Yeah, I mean, the Padres and Diamondbacks really set the tone now. They're actually they've got some separation. The Padres are 4.5 up on the number 4 team. The Diamondbacks 3.5 up. And again, the Diamondbacks are another team that we talked about. If they can just hold on, they got Eduardo Rodriguez back this week. They got Mero Kelly back today. So they're going to be the best version of themselves down the stretch. Whereas, the Braves, of course, they've lost a superstar a month, basically for 4 months now. The Cardinals have never been easy to take seriously. Even though they're above 500 and they've been in this mix, they've been outscored by almost 50 runs. And that's usually a pretty good sign that a team isn't as good as its record. So, we haven't mentioned them yet, but Cubs are now 3.5 out of a playoff spot. And I've always had I had the Cubs as a 96-win team at the start of the season. They can still get there. They'd have to go like 45-5 the rest of the way to get there. But I looked at a team with that kind of run prevention. The defense has been off this year. The bullpen's been off, but they've gotten healthy in the bullpen. They're getting a lot of arms back. The starting pitching has been very good, and the hitting is starting to come around. So I think the Cubs are still a big part of this mix.
Well, and one thing about you, you're very loyal. I will say that.
Stubborn, I believe, is the word that women who have dated me have said. Stubborn is the word.
All right, let's talk about Atlanta a little bit because when this whole season started, Atlanta was just penciled in that they're going to be a playoff team. Right now, you wonder if they're going to be a playoff team. What about the Atlanta Braves? They do come in here for 4, and I think probably we get Sale and Snell tomorrow night, if you can say that quickly.
I wouldn't have pegged this as such an important series even a month ago, but the Braves right now are not the Braves. Obviously, we know they lost Strider at the start of the year, Ronald Acuna Jr. in June, Michael Harris, who could come back actually for this Giants series. He's been out for about 2 months. Ozzie Albies going to be out 2 months until the very end of the season. So this is a shell of the Braves team that we're used to seeing. They're running out Ramon Laureano. They're running out Whit Merrifield, guys who have actually been released by other teams this year. The bench is guys like Eli White and Luke Williams, who just are very, very good players. Max Fried's been on and off the IL. He got knocked around in Colorado last night. So if it's a 4-game series, he should pitch game 4. Charlie Morton's been knocked around. So at the same time, the player they've lost 15 to 20 WAR worth of players just to injury. And a lot of the guys that have been healthy have not been effective. Matt Olson's hit well in Colorado. He's coming around a bit, but he's having an off year. Literally the only Brave who's been as good and as healthy this year as he was last year is Marcell Ozuna.
Yeah, and Austin Riley, he killed the Giants when they played earlier. What do you do with Ozuna and Soler? They made the trade for Soler. He hit the home run last night and got a big single last night. It's hard to put him in the field. What do you do with Ozuna and Soler?
How do you solve a problem like Jorge? You play Soler in right field. I mean, they've made that decision. If you look at the distribution of playing time since the trade, Soler started in right. Ozuna is not going to play the field. I mean, I can come up with some odd in-game situation where perhaps he does, but I'm not even sure Marcell Ozuna carries the glove to the park anymore. The Braves have made the decision. They're going to play Soler in right, and they're going to take him out. They'll put White or Williams or Merrifield out there late in the game. But it's going to be Soler in right and Ozuna for DH. And I kind of give credit to Alex Anthopoulos for going out and getting the best bat he could, given all of the injuries they've had in the outfield, and just kind of valuing offense over defense. This is a Braves team that has really struggled to score. You look at some of their lineups, and it's, look at all these all-stars at the top, and then it's a lot of waiver bait at the bottom. So adding Soler, if nothing else, lengthened the lineup.
All right. Well, the Phillies ran into the buzzsaw of the Diamondbacks last night. Aaron Nola has a lot of trouble pitching in that ballpark, and Marte rolled up his ankle a little bit last night. But let's talk Arizona and San Diego, Joe. How good are they? Do they actually pose a threat? Can they get ahead of the Dodgers? Obviously they can, but is it likely?
I don't, only because the Dodgers are actually going to get healthy themselves here. They're going to get Betts here back soon. They should get Muncy back. Some of the pitchers, Walker Buehler is actually going to take, River Ryan's roster spot here shortly. So, the Giants are another team the Dodgers are another team that's kind of playing with their food a little bit for much of the summer. And I said this many times, Marty. The Dodgers, they've learned that nobody cares if they win 105 or 106 games. They've done that. They've had the monster regular seasons and gotten no credit for it because they lose in the playoffs. Nobody cares. So to me, the Dodgers have gone through this regular season kind of just letting guys get healthy, figuring out roles in the bullpen, maybe extending some IL trips so that guys make sure they come back to 100%. I just don't think the Dodgers are that worried about the regular season. Even though the Padres and Diamondbacks have made up all of this ground over the last month, I still think the Dodgers hold on to win the division. I think it's a little closer than they would have liked. Obviously, the Padres, all those close wins this week in Pittsburgh and in Miami, teams that are kind of falling apart. And, the Padres have played well late in those games. The Diamondbacks, as I mentioned, getting healthy. Their offense has been phenomenal. They actually lead. I want to check this. I believe the Padres still lead the National League in runs. You could have won a heck of a bar bet this week with that. But sorry, Marty. The Diamondbacks lead the National League in runs. And that kind of came out of nowhere. This team that really struggled to score earlier the year. Corbin Carroll's still not great, but he's playing better. But everybody else, you got Ketel Marte, who's an MVP candidate. Since Perdomo's been back, he's been very good. Eugenio Suarez, who got off to a terrible start, he's been pretty good of late. It's the offense that has really carried them. And like I say, now they're getting the pitching healthy. So I've underestimated both of these teams all year long, the Padres and Diamondbacks. And in the second half, they've actually blown people away. Marty, I want to mention, do you remember last year, we talked about the Padres a lot. They couldn't win close games, 2-12 in extra innings, 9-23 in one-run games. They've completely turned that around. And if you look at offensively, they've gone from the worst team in high-leverage situations to the best team in high-leverage situations. And Mike Schilt, I guess, is going to get a lot of credit for that. But from year to year, that's just randomness. That's just stuff bouncing around. It's mostly the same team as it was last year. Jackson Merrill's had some big hits. He's obviously the rookie, but it's just one of those things. All of the things that went wrong for them last year are going right for them this year.
Bullpens, Joe Sheehan with us. We could talk all day with Joe about ball. The newsletter is just terrific, and his gaming part where he picks the winners and losers every day, that's a lot of fun too. But bullpens. I look at the Padre bullpen, and they've really upgraded it. I look at the Arizona bullpen, my goodness, they're loaded now. even though Sewald has had trouble. And the Giants, send Duvall down to the minor leagues, and now Walker's the closer. The Dodger bullpen, I still think, is very much up in the air. What about those 4 bullpens? Who's the best? Who's the worst?
The Padres have a nuclear bullpen. I mean, when you adding Tanner Scott and Jason Adam, 2 power arms, to what was already a strong group with Suarez and Morejon, the third righty I'm forgetting. They've got depth, they've got power, they've got different looks. One of the things we've seen in probably about 10 years now, you go back to those 2011 Cardinals, is that bullpens now throw close to half the innings in the postseason. So you've got to have a deep bullpen. And one of the things people talk about is, can you overexpose relievers in short series? Now, the research is still mixed on that. But if you're the Padres and you can go to 5 different guys in high-leverage situations, it reduces the possibility that you're going to overexpose any one reliever in that. So when you've got, you mentioned the Diamondbacks' depth, you mentioned the Padres' depth. I think the Giants have depth, but they don't really have the power that the other 2 bullpens have. We'll see if Duvall can work his way back. Duvall, the walk rate just ate him. 14% of the batters he faced this year, he walked. And, of course, giving up the big homer to Luis Garcia the other day was something of the last straw. But I don't think they're giving up on him. I do think he will be back, and he will be part of, if it gets to that point, a playoff bullpen.
The Phillies, for much of the year, we thought they were the best team in baseball. But for the last, since the All-Star break, last 5 weeks, they have not been very good.
Yeah, the pitching hasn't really been great. This is another team that we talk about bullpens, and they added at the deadline. They went out and got Tanner Banks, the left-hander for the White Sox. They went and got Carlos Estevez from the Angels. So they're another team that wants to have this incredibly deep bullpen. Up front, it's Jose Alvarado from the left side and Jeff Hoffman from the right. Veteran Matt Strahm, who was actually signed to be a swingman, has been very good out of the bullpen for them. And the offense hasn't really been that great. Bryce Harper been a little bit of a slump. You think about the homegrown guys for them. Bryson Stott hasn't really hit this year at all. Johan Rojas hasn't hit at all. He's really been a defensive replacement. Austin Hayes they picked up to actually take over in left field. It's kind of squeezed Rojas' playing time. He got hurt the other day. So the bottom of that lineup really does fall off a bit. But the front of it, obviously, with Harper and Turner, Realmuto is finally back. He's not hitting very well, but he's healthy again. Kyle Schwarber up top. On-base percentage, slugging percentage, everything you want from a leadoff man except speed. So I think the Phillies are going to be okay. One of the benefits the Phillies have this year, of course, is the Braves aren't what they used to be. A typical season, you'd be more worried about the Phillies possibly going into this slump and blowing this lead. But they're still 7.5 up on the Braves and 8 up on the Mets. So I think it'd be very hard for the Phillies to fall out. I think the interesting race here, Marty, let's say for the sake of argument, the Dodgers hold on. The Phillies, Brewers, and Dodgers are separated basically by nothing. So we could have some really intense races for that bye at the end of the year. We haven't really had those since we went to this format, but it's a big deal skipping an entire series and getting that week off. I don't care about the results that have happened in recent years. You would rather have that week off and not have to play that first series than not. So the Phillies, Braves, and Dodgers all potentially getting that number 1, number 2 seed.
Yeah, I looked at it yesterday, and I said, God, if the Giants ended up in the 6th seed and the Dodgers ended up in the 3rd seed, we could have Giants-Dodgers in the first round. They could happen.
That didn't go so well for the Giants last time.
Well, they got robbed. Let's put it that way. they got robbed. Joe, as we let you go, division winners in the American League, how do you see it as we stand today?
The Orioles, I think, will edge out the Yankees. I just like their depth better, although they had a bad trade deadline. I think the Twins end up catching the Guardians. Big game today in Minnesota. The Twins swept doubleheader on Friday, lost a really good game last night, 2-1. The Guardians really struggling of late. The offense has become one-dimensional. They've become very reliant on the home run, but the bullpen is still incredible. So that's going to be a good race. I think the Twins end up winning that. And I think the Astros end up holding off the Mariners, even though, if the Mariners never allow another run, I do like their chances.
Yeah, it's they throw a no-hitter, and the question is, did they win the game? That's the old Dodgers story. Koufax threw a no-hitter, and they said, well, yeah, but the Dodgers win. That was the Dodgers in the 60s. Well, I will say this. Kansas City is a team to watch. I still think that they're going to get closer in this Central. I think that's going to be my dark horse pick.
I keep expecting them to fade, and they don't. The offense just continues to put up, every couple of games, they have the 8-run game like they did last night against the Cardinals. They've gone out and tried to bolster that bullpen, although it's still a big weak spot. I think the key, Marty, Seth Lugo, Cole Reagans have never really worked this deep into a season before. If those two guys hold up, the Royals will be fine, but both of them are really pushing past their limits in terms of workload.
That's going to be fun. Did you make a pick today? And any game that you'd like to share?
Nothing today. We'll be back at it tomorrow.
All right. Very good. Well, we got the Giants and Tigers. Giants try to sweep the Tigers. Joe, have a good afternoon, and we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks. Thank you.
Thanks, Marty. Take care.
All right, that is Joe Sheehan, joesheehan.com, and the gaming newsletter is really a lot of fun. It comes out every couple of days, but he gives you the reasons for picking a team, a prop bet, things like that. Very interesting. Really, I enjoy it. I think it's one of the best things out there. All right, that's our show for today. Back with you next Saturday. It'll be Giants and A's. I think we're on at noon on Saturday. But Giants try to sweep the Tigers today. And Walter Ika-Balsetta coming up next with our Giants warm-up. Have a great Sunday, everybody. Talk to you then.
Seam heads, start cracking those peanuts and spitting those seeds, because gloves are soon to be popping.
He makes a headlong dive and makes the catch.
And bats are going to get cracking.
Blast one! Deep right field! Gone!
Welcome to KNBR's Giants warm-up.
Way back there! Good man!
On the sports leader.
Baez with his feet wide apart. Wide open stance. The pitch. Swing and a miss. He struck him out with a slider. The Giants make it 3 in a row and get their 12th win in their last 15 games.
All right, what is up, Giants fans? You heard it there. Ryan Walker in for the save. A little bit of a difference there. We got to get used to that one. But welcome to the Giants warm-up show, Giants fans. It's been a while, Raph. I haven't been on a Giants warm-up show. I was looking at the schedule since Blake Snell's no-no. That was the last time that I was on Giants warm-up, so I'm excited to be back and look at this Giants team. I mean, they have really done what they've give it up for your San Francisco Giants. They have done what they have needed to do, just what the doctor ordered, starting with that series, that 4-gamer against the Colorado Rockies, and just kind of held that momentum going into their series with Oakland, and I know they split that one, but then they go on the road and they play in Cincinnati, and they go to the Nationals, and had to deal with all that weather situation. Which, by the way, I was on the KNBR off-air podcast, which broadcast during the Giants games, and that was just a hectic time, but a lot of fun. Just what the Giants have been able to do over this last stretch, really ever since the All-Star break. I mean, they came out of that really looking stale, looking anemic on offense, and still they're putting things together. I mean, we have the chat going on YouTube and on Twitch. Go ahead and check it out there on KBR. But you know, we've been talking about this Giants offense, and really, I think that we all have to kind of understand that this Giants team. And again, I'm sounding like they lost yesterday. They won yesterday. They're going for the sweep today against the Detroit Tigers. Gotta love that. It doesn't matter who they're playing. They have to pile up these games, and especially with that schedule. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But that schedule that's coming up in September, it is a daunting schedule that is coming up for the Giants. They're playing teams that are virtually in the mix for the playoffs. 6 games against the Diamondbacks, 6 games against the Padres. And also to mention, the Giants have gone on this run, and they've gained very little ground on those two teams, on the Diamondbacks and the Padres, because they've been equally as hot. I mean, the NL West is really starting to get really interesting, but that NL wild card, especially with the Braves, who are coming in for 4 huge series and we'll talk about that a little bit later with the rotation. But we were talking about the offense in the YouTube chat, and specifically, I want to shout out Greg, and he's very he's very, you know, he's not very optimistic on the Giants offense. Yeah, no, it's a shocker. But he asked the question. He's like, this Giants offense isn't doing their part. But I would go in there and say that this Giants team, especially at home, because we got a little bit. I wouldn't necessarily say greedy, but we loved what we saw on the road trip because they hit 15 home runs on that trip. Come back, they haven't hit one yet. That's not too much of a shocker because this team, when you look at what they've done on the road, their home runs, I believe they're 5th or 6th in Major League Baseball when you look at their home run total on the road. But when you look at home, they're damn near last. So you kind of have to know, with being in this ballpark, I'm not breaking news. This isn't rocket science. This team will only go as far as their pitching staff takes them. Their starting rotation. And I mean, you look at everything that has gone and that has transpired, you know, with Blake Snell throwing his no-hitter, and you see Kyle Harrison, the start before that, he was pitching pretty well. He got knocked around a little bit. But that had to do with the rain in Washington. And then the last outing for Hayden Birdsong, who goes today, he pitches much better at home. His road ERA is above 6. His home ERA is 2.45. So you have to know what your team is. And again, I will just go on and say that this team will go as far as their starting pitching will take them. Yes, you need to score runs, and they have to get creative. And I love to see that Tyler Fitzgerald will break down the lineup here coming up in a little bit, but I love to see Tyler Fitzgerald in that leadoff spot. You have to keep him there. He is one of your best hitters right now over the stretch since June 9th, or July 9th, excuse me. June 9th. He has been the hottest hitter for the Giants in all of baseball, and that's someone that you need to have as a catalyst. Then you throw in Lamont Wade Jr. there, and you know he's going to give you a solid at bat and look to get on base and keep the line moving. Then you throw in Elliot Ramos, who you look at his numbers with guys in scoring position, runners in scoring position. They're pretty good. He's hitting above 300. I want to say his number was 345. I have it here in my notes, but he is hitting pretty well with runners in scoring position. The rest of the team, not necessarily. So they have to find ways to score runs. But again, that's the name of the game. You have to find ways to score runs. But this team will go as far as their starting pitching will take them, and their bullpen. I mean, when you look at everything that has transpired in the bullpen, especially in the back half, with Camilo Doval getting sent down to Sacramento, I don't know if that came to a little bit of a shocker for most fans. I like the move because if you heard, you know, I do a podcast on KNBR, Rounding Third and King, and it airs in the mornings before Marty comes on, and early in the mornings, like 7 a.m., something like that. So if you're listening, if you're dialed into the Sports Leader, you maybe heard me talking about Camilo Doval. But there was a point to where going down the stretch, if you were throwing out Camilo Doval, I didn't necessarily have the confidence in this team to pull it out, right? I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see how the back end of this rotation or back end of this bullpen really comes together. But if there was a guy that I feel most confidence in, it's Ryan Walker. And he proved exactly why. His first opportunity, literally hours before the game, Camilo Doval sent to Sacramento, and he's told he's going to be the guy. He is the closer. He is the ninth inning guy, and he goes out there and gets his first save. And that's going to be crucial. But then, I mean, when you slot him out of the high leverage eighth inning situation, well, then who do you throw in there? You saw Rogers come in there and look pretty solid. So I'm not necessarily concerned about the back end of the bullpen, especially with Ryan Walker now slotting in there, and it's going to be really interesting. But that was a question mark for me going down this stretch of games, especially, I mean, these games are going to be tough. I mean, we've seen what this Giants team is capable of playing against 500 or sub 500 teams. And yes, they are winning games like crazy. Since the All-Star break, 17-9, won 17 of their last 21 games. So they are doing pretty good right now. But you have to look at who they have played. And there's going to be a huge test that comes this week with the Atlanta Braves. I know the Braves have kind of tailed off a little bit, and they lost, I think was it 6 or 7 in a row this past week, and they finally won yesterday. And it was tied 8-8 in the I believe it was the 7th inning or 8th inning yesterday in Colorado. And then the Braves go ahead and score 3 more runs and end up winning that game, snapping their losing streak. But they're coming in here. They're still a quality team. They are a team that is directly in front, standing in front of the Giants' door to get into the postseason, to get into that final wild card. So that's going to be a very telling series. And then we talk about how this team has, especially with Farhan and his comments after the trade deadline, in saying that the Giants have the best rotation in all of baseball. Now it's time to prove it, because you see Logan Webb, what he does last night, goes out there and throws 7 innings, only allowed 1 run on 4 hits and 8 Ks. That's what Logan Webb does, especially at home. But that is what Logan Webb does. That is what the Giants need from Logan Webb. Then you look to today with Hayden Birdsong, and it's a hard ask. I mean, he's 22 years old. He is learning how to pitch in the big leagues. But I love the move in that the Giants traded away Alex Cobb for this specific guy, for this reason, and to develop Hayden Birdsong moving down the stretch of the season. Is that a move for a playoff team? It's going to be really interesting to see how he can develop for the rest of this season. But I love the move. I want to see more of Hayden Birdsong. I want to see what he's made of. But this is uncharted territories. I mean, we were talking all season long. We were talking about Jordan Hicks, in that he's coming out of the bullpen, right? But this is a major league pitcher. Like, we know what he's capable of to a certain point. Then we got to uncharted waters, and now he's in the bullpen. I can't remember the last time that Jordan Hicks was actually in the game for the Giants, to be honest. So that was uncharted territories. We saw where that kind of went. But obviously, Hayden Birdsong, he's going to be a starter for this team, but it's uncharted territories. The same thing can be said about Kyle Harrison. I mean, I was a little bit concerned on, I believe it was Thursday, was his start. It was the rain delay theater, so that day kind of, it drug on like way too long. It was 5 hours of just rain delay, of Giant just going back and forth coverage. So I don't really recall that game too much. But what was telling was he threw a lot of changeups in that game. First of all, a lot of changeups in his outing. And his first fastball that came in, it was at 88 miles an hour. That's a little concerning. So these two guys, they're young, they're promising. I love the move. I like to see how they're going to develop down this stretch of the season. But when you look at this team, again, they are going to go as far as this starting rotation can take them. Hayden Birdsong on the mound today, trying to get the sweep of the Tigers. It's the Tigers. I love what Marty was saying earlier this morning with the toothless Tigers. Love that. But, I mean, again, yeah, they can't score a lot. Giants have squeaked out these games, 3-1 yesterday and 3-2 on Friday. And, you know, this Giants team, they struggle with scoring runs at home. But there's no reason that you should be getting no hit. No hit through 6 innings.
That's both games, dude. They had no hitter going to the 4th inning.
No hitter on Friday going into the 7th. Elliot Ramos comes up clutch. That's why he's a player to bank on. We'll talk about that later. And then you go to yesterday, and they went 4 innings of not getting a hit. So that's a little bit concerning. So maybe keys to the game: get a hit in that first inning, and just get that thought of getting no hit. Just get it out the way. Just get it out the way. And just keep the offense going and get some early offense for Hayden Birdsong, because his last outing was his roughest outing. 2 innings, 7 earned runs, really struggled with his command. But again, he pitches much better at home. You just hope that isn't signs of things to come down the stretch. I think that he'll be all right. I think that he'll be okay, and especially today pitching at Oracle Park. But we will talk about last night's game, and we'll get you ready for today. We do have a lineup. The Giants going for the sweep. 17 of the last 21 games they have won. They have done exactly what they've needed to do with the Braves coming into town. And the rest of this month, I mean, they have pretty favorable schedule. You got the final Battle of the Bay next weekend in Oakland for 2. Then you have the Chicago White Sox that come to town. Then I believe it's the Mariners. And you go with the Brewers. Then I think you finish out against the Marlins. Yeah. So a lot of good games for the Giants to keep pace or try to gain some ground in that wild card race. We'll give you a standings update coming up next, but we'll talk about this Giants team going for the sweep. Hayden Birdsong on the mound. How are you feeling about this team? 808 KNBR is the number. We are live on YouTube and Twitch. Want to hear your thoughts. Are you buying this Giants team now that they are able to beat up on teams that they're supposed to be beating up on? But it is Major League Baseball. They're still Major League clubs, and they are winning when they needed to. It's just what the doctor ordered. How are you feeling about this team going into this series against the Atlanta Braves starting on Monday? A 4-game series. That's a huge one. Huge implications on the wild card. So go ahead and shoot me your text, your thoughts, your calls on 808 KNBR. That's 415-808-5627. I want to hear from you how you're feeling about this Giants team as they are going through their best stretch of the season, and it comes at the most critical time where they needed it most. So we'll talk about that on the other side. You're listening to the Giants warm-up on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Here's the pitch. Wisely hits a ground ball fair. Past the dive of the first baseman, Madris, and down the right field line. Yaz has scored, and here comes Encarnacion right behind him, and he scores a double for Brett Wisely, and just like that, the Giants have gone ahead 2-1.
It's almost time for hot dogs, peanuts, cold beers, and orange and black baseball. Our Giants warm-up rolls on the sports leader.
All right, you heard it there. Welcome back to the Giants warm-up show. Brett Wisely coming up in the clutch. Who would have thought? I mean, we're what, August 11th? We're talking about Brett Wisely. He's bad to the bone, for sure. Brett Wisely, Tyler Fitzgerald, Elliot Ramos, literally guys that you'd go up and see at AAA Sacramento. That these guys are huge difference makers for this Giants team, especially on offense. Welcome back to the Giants warm-up show. Brett Wisely getting things going yesterday for the Giants. That 2-run single down the right field line was incredible. Then Elliot Ramos came up. Actually, I think it was a double, actually. It wasn't a single. I think it was a double. But, yeah, Elliot Ramos comes up and adds a much-needed run. Got them to 3. That's the number. That's the number. That's what you need the Giants to do at home, because their pitching, yes, their pitching is much better at home. We all know this. It's not rocket science. So maybe that's an X factor. Score 3 runs today. I don't know. I'm just teasing my diamond notes. But today we are talking about the Giants as they have really gone on a incredible run against these teams that they have in front of them. I mean, we were all looking at this schedule. The month of August was a make or break time for the Giants, and they have made the most of their schedule right now. They have done what they've needed to do against the likes of the Washington Nationals, against the likes of the Cincinnati Reds, which at that time was a huge series because this was a team that is still in the wild card mix. So you go in there and win 2 out of 3. You do it against the Colorado Rockies, a team that you should beat up on. We're going to forget that first series out of the All-Star break. But the Giants are doing what they need to do. They are finally over 500, 3 games over 500. I don't think that I've ever been so excited to see that number for this Giants team. So how far can they take it? Going for the sweep today is a crucial time for the Giants. They need to get this win. Every win counts. But was something that we were talking about going into the All-Star break. It was, can the Giants, because at that point they were a 500 or sub 500 team. The question was, can they go out there and play above expectations? Are they able to play above 500? Well, they've answered that question, and they have. I know the schedule plays a huge factor, but you got to play who's in front of you. So the fact that they're taking advantage of this schedule is huge. But since the All-Star break, again, I mentioned earlier, 17-9, that is a .653 win percentage. That's what they need to do, and it's gotten them 3 games above 500. They have to keep it going and keep this momentum going into the month of September, because that is when, I mean, they're going to be tested this week with the 4-game series against the Atlanta Braves, but they're going to be tested every single series down the stretch in September. It does not get easy. It starts off, you end the month, you end the month of August against the Mariners. Then you start it off with the Diamondbacks and the Padres, back-to-back series. That's huge, the first week of September. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the Giants are going to manufacture runs. I think that's a big question mark for this team. But again, they're going to go as far as that pitching staff takes them. But when they were on the road, 15 home runs, I think Giants fans were ecstatic to see all those home runs, especially Matt Chapman leading the way with 4 home runs of the 15. And I believe his last home run came on Wednesday against the Nationals, and that one is brought to you by Detailed Measurement, sponsored by Abundant Life Weight Loss. Call 925-594-7110 to start your journey today. Let's take a listen to that measured shot that went for 415 in Washington, D.C.
Same exact home run distance as Yastrzemski's, 422. Now Chapman drives one deep left, and it is gone. That one actually makes it into the Giants bullpen. Matt Chapman and Ramos have quite a thing going. One homers and the other follows soon thereafter. A line shot off the bat of Chapman, 5-3 Giants.
Again, and that was our Detailed Measurement sponsored by Abundant Life Weight Loss. Call 925-594-7110 to start your journey today. That came in at 415. That was Matt Chapman's fourth home run on the trip and was just lighting it up. So hopefully we can channel some of that energy and bring that to today's game and maybe get a homer or two. I mean, we know the ballpark. We know the ballpark. But Matt Chapman has been one of the hotter bats. He's really starting to heat up, and it comes at a crucial time for the San Francisco Giants. But speaking about Matt Chapman, I mean, Raph, if you can pull up really quick the diving catch yesterday. I mean, you got to feel good about the acquisition of Matt Chapman. I know early on in the season we were talking about these offseason signings, and you look at Jorge Soler, he's no longer on the team. He got traded. It wasn't necessarily what the Giants had expected for him to come in. You look at Blake Snell prior to him coming back from the IL. It just looked like a dud. I mean, let's just be honest. You love to see what he's doing now, and I think that you're going to see that second half Snell, vintage second half Snell. Look at the back of the baseball card. This is nothing new to him. So really excited to see that. But to the point, until he came back from the IL, it looked like a disappointment, right? And Matt Chapman early on in the year had a lot of problems with errors, and the bat just wasn't there. I think that he had a lot of pressure put on himself because he is a Bo-Mel guy. He wants to go out there and put it on the line every single day for his manager. But he's come into a groove now, and you go and look back on that play. I mean, he just is a human highlight reel. This has to be the best signing of the offseason. And you just look at what Matt Chapman means to this team, because he brings the bat, he brings the glove, but also you have to know what that brings between the lines about the pitcher that's on the mound feeling so overly confident with who's at the hot corner, knowing that if anything is hit in the vicinity of Matt Chapman, that he's going to go out there and give 110% and make a play on the ball. Maybe sometimes it's not pretty, but he's going to at least give you a shot. And that just has to be a sigh of relief. Like imagine how Hayden Birdsong right now, going out onto the mound, not even just today, his first start in major leagues. And you go out there and Matt Chapman goes over and gives him a tap on the back and says, I got you. Anything that comes over my way, I got you. That has to be a huge sigh of relief. So that just in and of itself is such a huge importance to this team, in that I think that the Giants have to do anything in their power to have him remain a Giant. I'm not saying that there's any inclinations that he's not going to stay. He loves playing here, loves playing for Bob Melvin. But you have to make sure that guy is here, because not only does it help, obviously, the defense around you, and depending on what they end up doing with Marco Luciano at shortstop and whatever, but whoever's at shortstop benefits from Matt Chapman being there. The bat's starting to come around. No, he's not going to hit above 300. We know that he's not that kind of guy, but he's on pace right now, I think, to hit 27 homers. Currently leads that home run right there. Gave him his 19th home run on the season, leads the team. So Matt Chapman just means a lot and checks off so much in every category for this Giants team as far as importance. And, I mean, we've seen Logan Webb and how he's talked about Matt Chapman. And actually, let's hear from Logan Webb right now, Raph. We'll go to Z2. Let's hear from Logan Webb talking about just his mentality and how much he loves pitching with Matt Chapman behind him. And he has to be speaking for himself, but also the rest of that Giants pitching staff.
Chappie is, it's unbelievable. I don't think many guys in baseball make those plays. So it's fun to pitch when he's out there.
And let's remind the audience of what that play was. It was in the 6th inning, saved a run, and that was a huge time for the Giants because they had just scored their 3 runs in the bottom of the 5th inning, and that could have been a momentum shift, right? You had a guy on second base. If that gets over Matt Chapman, that run scores. It becomes a 1-run game. The whole dynamic of this game changes yesterday. But let's go ahead and take a listen at the wizardry of Matt Chapman yesterday in the 6th.
Work fast. Sometimes it feeds into their rhythm.
Oh, my. Jenkins puts it away. Right in his back pocket.
Yeah, it's that simple. It was literally a bloop. It was going to be a bloop single into left field. And Matt Chapman just goes over there, just 110%, leaps up, grabs it, and makes it look easy. I think that's the thing that, I mean, remembering back to when Nolan Arenado was in the NL West and we saw him put on a display every single, and just, if you want to keep it with the Giants, going back to when Brandon Crawford was on this team and how he made it look effortless. That's what Matt Chapman does at the hot corner. So he just means so much to this team. And let's hear from Matt Chapman himself as he talks about, because we focus so much on the offense and not being explosive and not scoring 4, 5, 6 runs. I know I went out of order there. 4, 5, 6 runs in consecutive games. We understand that it's frustrating that the offense isn't putting out runs, but if you're not putting out runs, you have to have solid defense, and that's what Matt Chapman talks about yesterday in the postgame.
It feels good for sure. I think it's, what makes me feel good is, maybe on a day that I didn't, have the most productive day offensively, I could still help the team on defense and find ways to win games. If you can always find ways to win a game on defense. So it feels good for sure, and it just motivates me to want to keep making them.
Feels good finding ways to win games. That's what this Giants team has done. And one last clip from Matt Chapman. He talks about how this team has been playing this last month, and it's been incredible. I mean, it all goes back to, I believe, July 26th, and that's where kind of things started to change for this Giants team. And Matt Chapman reflects on how well things have been going for the Orange and Black.
It's good. I think, we're finding ways to win games when we have to. In D.C., we really felt like we needed to win that last game, and we wanted to start creeping over 500, and we were able to take the first 2 of this series. So I think it feels good, and we've been battling all year, whether it's been injuries or just not being able to get something going or string hits together, whatever it is. So for us to be able to start creeping in the right direction, and obviously the teams ahead of us, and especially in our division, are kind of doing the same thing. So we got to keep doing our thing, but we can't be losing games right now because everybody seems to be winning.
And that's been the conversation, right? And we'll go out to the phone lines really quick. I see Scarecrow out there, so just hang tight with me, Scarecrow. But that's been the thing about this team, is that they've been below 500 for majority of this season. And the conversation has been, just get back to 500. Just get back to 500. Well, now they're back to 500, but now they're above 500. Let's keep that train going. And let's see how high they can get above 500, right? I do not want to see 500 ever again on the win percentage for the San Francisco Giants as long as this season goes on. I know that September is a daunting task, but you got to take these games. You have to take today. You have to show out against the Atlanta Braves. Win split or 3 out of 4. That's fine. I'll take 3. I'll take a sweep. That'd be nice. But I'm not gonna be overly confident on that one. But take 2 out of 2, right? Just split the series, and then you go into Oakland. You got to take care of business in Oakland. You have the White Sox coming in. You have to take care of business in that. Start winning series, right? That's all you have to do, and you'll never get back to that moment where, they're a 500 team. I never want to see 500 again next to the win percentage of the San Francisco Giants as long as the season goes on. Let's go out to the lines, the phone lines. We got Scarecrow in Sacramento. What's up, Scarecrow? Welcome to the Giants warm-up show. How you feeling about this Giants team?
They've already pushed all their chips in to try and make the postseason this year. What concerns me more than anything else is the amount of Reddit players we've got, and that's called Blake Snell, Robbie Ray, Matt Chapman. These guys can all opt out, at which point you've got a hole in that ball club you're not going to be able to fix. It doesn't bode well for the future, but it does for right now. Their inability to score with runners in scoring position.
Yeah.
That doesn't bode well either. I mean, on this road trip, if they didn't hit a home run, they didn't score.
Yeah.
And that whole thing is troublesome and bothersome to me. But I'm kind of curious as to whether Mr. Zahidi is going to pry open that wallet to keep these guys, because they aren't going to come cheap.
Yeah, and majority of those guys, and thanks for the call, Scarecrow. Really appreciate it, man. Majority of those guys are Scott Boras clients, right? I mean, you look at Matt Chapman, you look at Blake Snell. I'm not sure if Robbie Ray falls under that umbrella, but if you were to rank for me, if you were to rank your, I guess, optimism of which guy is coming back of those three, I think I don't see how Robbie Ray opts out. I mean, he's recovering from Tommy John. How much money is going to be out there? Is he going to make more than what he's currently making for the Giants? I just don't see him opting out. So I feel like Robbie Ray is my number one, or my most comfortable in that he is going to return. And then obviously we were talking about it at length is Matt Chapman. I feel like Matt Chapman is going to be back on this team, but we'll have to see. I mean, you bring up that Farhan and the Giants organization are going to have to open up the wallet. Well, then my question to you is not to Scarecrow, but just everybody listening. My question to the organization, rather, would be, who else do you have in that spot? Who else are you going to put at third base? I don't see another way for the Giants to go about it. That's why he means so much to this team, is that they don't have the depth. I mean, do you want to throw Casey Schmidt there? Is that something that you want to see? He does have a good glove. The bat isn't necessarily there. Is the bat ever going to be there? I know he hit a couple of home runs, but yeah, and Raph remembers that. A little inside joke there. Yeah, Raph really remembers that. He benefited tremendously from that home run with Casey Schmidt. But is he the future? Like, you know what I'm saying? So that's where, when you look at the pitchers, they have organizational depth. I'm not saying that Carson Wisenhunt or Reggie Crawford or Landon Roop or any of these other guys in the organization, Carson Seymour. Like, I'm not talking about them being better than Blake Snell, but they are cheaper. So I would love to have Blake Snell back next year, and that's a conversation in the offseason. Right now, we're focusing on what this team is. And, I mean, this week alone, and we'll take a quick break coming up, this week alone, we'll talk about that on the other side. You're going to see what this rotation can potentially be in a postseason series. You're starting off on Monday, should be, if my calculations are correct, should be Blake Snell on Monday. It should be Kyle Harrison on Tuesday. It should be Robbie Ray on Wednesday. And then you come in with the anchor, the longest tenured Giant, our guy, the leader, who just pitched seven innings of phenomenal baseball yesterday in Logan Webb. So you go Snell, Harrison, Ray, Webb. That's a playoff rotation. This could be a playoff preview. you're looking at the Braves, who are the best team that the Giants are going to be playing since they played the Dodgers for 4. Remember how that went, but this is the best way that this rotation could be laid out in this series coming up. So you're going to get to see what this Giants team can be. And I know that, Scarecrow called in and he's concerned about next year and years to come. And yeah, you got to keep that in the back of your mind. But we got a text here from the 415 that pretty much just took the words right out of my mouth. Worry about this year. I think they're calling me negative. I'm not trying to be negative. I hope they're referring to Scarecrow. But worry about this year. Yeah, I'm worrying about this year. That's my focus. But just to go back on Scarecrow, and 415 follows up, pretty sure Chapman wants to be here, left out the B, but wants to be here. I would love to see him stay here for a good while, because again, what else do you have? What else do you have in the organization to throw in that position? And like I said, I don't think Robbie Ray opts out. The biggest question mark for me of those 3 is Blake Snell. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Not today. Because today, we have Hayden Birdsong on the mound against the Detroit Tigers. We'll talk about that matchup. We'll talk about the lineup. Haven't given you the lineup in 40 or so minutes, 47 minutes since we've been on the Giants warm-up. So we'll get you the lineup. We'll get you a standings update, and we'll talk about Hayden Birdsong a little bit more, what he needs to do to get back on the right path, and how important it is for this Giants offense to give him a little bit of support so that he feels comfortable going into this matchup today. Just forget about that outing in Nationals Park. I'm sure he's forgotten about it already. So we will continue that conversation on the other side. 808 KNBR is the number if you want to chime in. Give me your thoughts on this Giants rotation, on the Giants offense, whatever you're feeling about this Giants team and their hot streak right now. 17 of the last 21 games that they have won, and they're doing exactly what they needed to do against this schedule that they had coming up, going into this 4-game series, potential playoff series here against the Atlanta Braves. So we will continue that conversation on the other side. Give me your calls. Give me your texts. And we're also live in the YouTube, KNBR YouTube and Twitch. We're live in there. Give me your thoughts in there. I'm thrilled to see what Greg has said, because he is just lighting up the chat right now. So we will continue that conversation on the other side. You're listening to KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Now, back to the show built for the orange and black family. This is Giants Warm-Up on KNBR, the sports leader.
All right, we are back here. KNBR Studios, Giants Warm-Up Show, getting you ready. First pitch today, 1:05. Official pregame starts in just about 10 minutes. And I believe we'll be talking with the Hall of Famer, John Miller. I'd like to get his thoughts on this hot streak of the Giants. So we'll do that in a little over 10 minutes. But the Giants go for the sweep today. They go for their third consecutive series win. They go for their fourth out of 5. That's what the Giants need to do. If they want to stay in this postseason picture, they want to stay in the wild card hunt, that's what they need to do. They need to win, continue to win series. I will settle with a split of the 4-game set coming up, but if they can win that series too, that'd be ideal. That'd be ideal, especially for the wild card standings, and that's where we get to the standings update. Sponsored by the Alameda County Probation Department. Visit joinacpd.org today for a career that matters. We've been talking about it at length, pretty much for the entirety of the show. The Padres, just God, man, I thought they were going to finally lose yesterday, and I was like, okay, the Giants gonna pull a game out over them. Nope, Padres continue to win. What was that number? I think it was 14 out of their last 16 that they have won. Currently riding a 7-game winning streak. And the Diamondbacks have been doing pretty damn well. Also having a 2-game win streak right now. But the wild card as it stands with those teams red hot. You have the Padres at holding the first spot in the wild card, 66-52. The Diamondbacks are right behind them, just a game behind the Padres at 65-53. And the Braves who were just once holding the first wild card spot, have now dropped to the third position at 61-55, and they are currently just a half game above the next team behind them. That is the New York Mets. Mets and Braves are going to be in the mix. And I haven't looked at the schedule, but I'd assume that they're playing a bunch down the stretch of this season. So 61 wins for both the Braves and the Mets, but 55 losses for the Braves, and 56 losses for the Mets, being that half-game difference. And right behind them, 1.5 games back of that third wild card, is your San Francisco Giants. They're currently ahead of the Cardinals. Cardinals have finally, their run differential has finally caught up to them. I mean, they're still negative 48 of all the playoff teams. And the Giants, I'm just saying, if they win by 4 or more, can have a 0 or potentially go into the positive side of the run differential. They're at negative 4 right now in the run differential department. But the Cardinals, negative 48. Negative 48. That's a massive number for a team that has playoff aspirations. I thought all along that the Cardinals would fall out of it eventually. They're still hanging around. They're only a half game behind the Giants. But yeah, that negative 48, that is not where you want to sit right now at this point in the season. Then you got the Cubs, you got the Pirates, and the Reds still all technically in the mix. About 5.5 games out from that third wild card. And that was your standings update, sponsored by Alameda County Probation Department. Visit joinacpd.org today for a career that matters. Hayden Birdsong on the mound today. He is going up against Montero. Forgot his first name. Kuiper Montero from Venezuela. He's going up against him today. Right-hander, young 24-year-old kid. Believe this is going to be his 9th start of the season. So Giants will get a good early look at some of the young pitching for the Tigers. And again, hopefully they get a hit in the first inning, and we don't have the thought of a no-hitter in the back of our mind like we did the previous 2 games against the Tigers. But Hayden Birdsong, his big thing is his curveball. If his curveball is on, he's had 19 strikeouts with that curveball. He's thrown it over 120 times. I believe the number was 126, and it's virtually an unhittable pitch. I think in all of the times that he has thrown it, I'm trying to find it right now, but the average is not good for hitters against that curveball. 126 curveballs thrown this season at the major league level, and batters are 2 for 31 against that curveball. It is not great. That is a .065 batting average. So Giants go for the sweep today. Hayden Birdsong on the mound. Keep the good times rolling. And Giants pregame show coming up next.